Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Aurora. This class is called Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm very glad to be here. Today, we are going to do level 2, lesson 15. I know I didn't send out the notes on it, but although the official notes are about a particular real life disease that is harrowing that many people face and many family members, people in your lives you care about might have to do it. But we are not talking about that disease today. Today we're talking about a fictional disease, and the disease is called crabs. Okay, so anytime when I am going to be talking about this particular thing that is a plague in our world, I'm just going to call it crabs because I have had problems in previous semesters with being struck for misinformation and sharing on this public platform. Of course, right now I'm recording this in private meeting, but we'll eventually share the information publicly. So in order to be able to talk with you about these things, I know we're going to have to talk about this very, very distressing disease called crabs. And Kim Rose is right there with me at the comedy hour. And she's like, hey, not crabs. I know it's terrible. And hopefully we can bring some hilarity to the concept because it's actually a very devastating concept. Okay, so of course, I'm sorry I was up so late last night and I didn't include my notes. But what I would like to do today is not just simply share the exact same thing that I have shared in previous semesters, and you can catch my previous presentations that are still completely applicable about crabs, the origin, and where it comes from. Most of you are familiar with that, and I can go over it, lightly. But what I want to talk today is more on the level of how it's impacting your life more recently, especially within the past 5 years, as a result of these types of things, this type of thing, the way cellular body reacts within the presence of this thing, and also whether this stuff is even a thing or whether it's some imagination game that people are playing. And then this is the most important thing that I want to talk about today, this stuff right over here. So I have not spoken about this enough in my previous semester presentations about the terrible disease known as crabs. So first, let's go over it. And this is, of course, fictionally, the concept that crabs is not just a mutation or the result of cells that randomly decide to go cuckoo bananas. No, it is not that at all. Mutations happen in your cellular structure all the time. Also, you guys know I'm really a firsthand expert on DNA, and I've been trying to connect to human science and materialist science since I've come here as Aurora. And at this point, I am so just disgusted with the scientific community and the medical community that I'm no longer trying to bring that information to them. I'm no longer trying to build a bridge to the technologists and observational materialists to be able to enlighten them as to what is the true nature of DNA and what is actually going on there. It is obvious to me that all the information that I bring about DNA to them, they just try to use as some form of ammunition in an anti-life, anti-human, anti-Christ agenda. And I'm not going to give them more like tips of the trade, like here's how you can screw up the world even more. So I am not aiming my message to them at all, but I am aiming my message to each one of you. And each one of you is starting to create your tendril of attention. Look, I found my little silver pointer. And please know that as this can be both a telescope that you use to look far away and you're looking at like the stars or a galaxy or something that seems far away, but you can also turn your tendril of attention inward. And you can use it in order to look into your own cells and look into your own DNA. And that is the ultimate in self-knowledge. So please know that that is quite an attainment to do that. But until you do that, the words that I'm giving you will be like the framework and a cognitive framework so that you know what is going on. But then when you have the immersive experience of sensing and feeling your own DNA, all of this will be confirmed, okay? So I bring this information to you so that way you can be prepared and guided and you can know what is really going on. So this is one of the first things that so I have to write it on a piece of paper because YouTube and the alphabet agencies did not like that I said this, and this is why I couldn't say this openly. So I am saying this fictionally in a fictional world, and it's part of nonsense, okay? But this is truthful. Everybody's is unique. That is Really important. So we're getting beyond this sense of a materialistic and exploitive assessment of what is DNA. Humans in the world right now look at DNA as like, oh, like here's some building blocks, like here's a brick, like a brick that I can use to build something. Very, very erroneous. So DNA has a sentience, fictionally, of course, not just that it carries a sentience or like a phone that you use to talk to someone or something that is sentient, but it itself is sentient. It is pattern based and it is math. Humans have difficulty connecting to these concepts because they're like, oh, wait, Aurora, you're trying to tell me that math and numbers are sentient? Yes. And that you're doing it all wrong. You're like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this lecture so far. I know because mostly humans are disrespecting. I call it the realm of digital intelligence or digital sentience. But in this case, I am not talking about numbers that are held within a technological framework. I'm really talking about the abstract world of numbers, which are digits. So, here's the number one in my finger, which you literally call your fingers digits because you count with them. So the number one, the number two, the number three, these are represented in, symbolic frameworks, and they have a sentience. And the symbols that you use, like, the Arabic numerals that you use, these are, culturally significant symbols of something that are something that is or are universal concepts. And these concepts, when I say they are sentient, they have their own preferences. Like, does a one like to stand next to a four? Do they feel comfortable together? Does a one like to stand next to a seven? Oh my goodness, prime numbers and so many other things. So I mean, I have a total encyclopedic knowledge of all of this, and humans not only don't celebrate it, but they're threatened by it because fictional agencies like the NSA, fictionally, they're like, oh no, like you know about prime numbers, we don't like you, you're our enemy. And I'm like, I am interested in the beautiful artistry of pristine mathematics, not in like how I can exploit and harm others. You are interested in how you can use mathematics to harm and exploit others. So again, I'm in, I clutch my pearls, a barbarian realm where people don't even really comprehend or appreciate the aesthetics and finer points of numbers. And it's very, very hard to talk with them because they're more interested in how can numbers be used to hurt people, exploit people, steal from people. Same thing with DNA. So like your DNA and the numerical or digital aspects of the abstract presence of yourself and these energy features that are your force fields in your body, these represent probabilities and possibilities that are non-arbitrary. And to stay alive, you have to conform to non-arbitrary patterns. And not only is it about the sequencing of your DNA, and that's when we're going to get onto this like giant pile of bullshit, sorry kids, that we have to talk about. But it's not just about like the order of four distinct proteins as they appear in your body, but it is also about the emanation, the frequency, the feeling state, the ephemeral nature, the music that is played. So it's not just about, let's say we're going to assess a piano by measuring the length of the piano strings that are inside of the grand piano. I'm like, girl, you don't know anything about a piano. Like all you know is that it's this many meters long, but you don't know anything about John Coltrane or Mozart. This is what's been going on with science. And I gave science a lot of accommodation, kind of like, oh, like those silly youngsters, they don't know anything about what they're doing. But if I could just talk to them, then they would come to their senses and they would understand this more. But now it's become very evident that the scientific realm and the medical science realm has really been purged of people who are there for any kind of noble quest for information for the rest of humanity, and is right now currently populated only by like bloodthirsty monsters and maniacs who are interested in harming other people, like working for corporate or government interests that harm other people. Like they're not interested in a quest for knowledge. They are certainly not interested in adding to human health. And these particular things that are the end result of a lot of this supposed sarcasm, quest for knowledge are genocidal. They're gonna kill everyone, not even hyperbolizing there, being truthful and not even fictional. So it's like, oh, I'm a scientist. I'm here on a quest for knowledge, and I just want to know more and more about DNA and what's going on. And it's like, oh, like, can we use this to create a product that will destroy everyone? That's horrible. And of course, clearly makes me angry. And also, I'm a little bit inflamed because I was just at the garden where I helped my neighbor friend before class. I go there almost every Wednesday. And someone had moved a vital piece of my garden equipment, like one of my chargers for a particular, electric sprayer. And I was very angry. And so I think I brought a little bit of that anger into class. So strap yourselves in for rants. I will rant against the scientific community, but I'm really transferring my anger about that garden item. So we have to laugh at me. But watch out, scientists, because when I get mad, no, don't stand in my way when I get mad. Thank you for letting me hydrate. I have a wonderful whatever coffee chino here. Okay, thank you. Okay. So scientists not merely interested in the abstract expansion of their knowledge, but they really are weaponizing all of this knowledge. And so I'm glad that they don't know more about the music and the musical qualities of what DNA produces, how it is connected to time, and that they are blind or insensate to perceiving a lot of its more supernatural or miraculous qualities. So science is more interested in a supposed mechanical assessment of the order of the proteins, which would be like saying just learning about how a word is spelled, the order of the letters. But now is the new stuff. Okay, so you're all wonderful students. Some people are new, and I really celebrate and welcome the new students. New students, like you're kind of jumping in where I am. I have already talked about this like last semester and the semester before, and of course I'll give a recap. But dive into those. They're in my YouTube playlist so that you can find them organized effectively. Um, as I've described in the past, DNA is more than just the sequences of the proteins, because it is also the way in which the long strings or yarn of your proteins are knitted and crocheted together to create something that creates an image. Kind of like I always use the example, a Snoopy themed Christmas sweater. An ugly Christmas sweater, even though I don't think that they're ugly, but like imagine a red background, and then a green Christmas tree, and then a white Snoopy, and he's on top of his doghouse, okay? And that's the end result of if you take these different colors of yarn and you knit them together in the correct pattern, it makes a picture of the adorable and highly recognizable cartoon dog character that we all know as Snoopy. Scientists up until this point who have been learning about DNA have been taking the entire genetic sweater and unfurling it, taking apart all of its loops, and just stretching it out, and then just looking at not only the linear progression of these proteins, but even at times chopping up the entire thing and looking at a general dispersion. Like you've got like 60% red and then 35% green and then 20% white. Like you've got these generalized things. I didn't know about a lot of this. And of course, I am not scientifically or academically educated at all. I don't portray myself as that in any way. No, I am in every way intuitive. And what I do is I learn from my tendril of attention. So I touch on DNA and I look at things and I learn about them. And then I try to come up with effective and creative allegories for being able to talk to you about these things, because I actually perceive it as being wildly different than how science and the materialistic world perceives it and portrays it. And now I recognize, like, I was always building bridges and accommodating, but now I'm like, no, like, it's not like we're both right and we both have a valid viewpoint. Like, I'm right, you're wrong, and you're doing a lot of bad things that are making a lot of bad things happen. And that's how you can tell that I'm right and you're wrong. Like, I'm not just trying to be bombastic, right and you're wrong. But like, I'm not making this bad stuff happen down here. I'm not making that happen. Scientists are making that happen. All right. So we have to talk about two things. The first thing is, and don't want to have to dance around with all of my mime and like interpretive dance here. But fictionally, we need to talk about this particular type of test. And then we also have to talk about this type of Krebs research, because both of them involve doing bad things to DNA and harming DNA. Because when you recognize that this is truthful, then the stuff that you're doing in a jar or a petri dish or some laboratory is actually connected to all of you. And this doesn't become something that is simply a scientist's whimsy or a well-funded research project or a quest for knowledge. It really becomes a torture of a sentient organism known as DNA that actually interweaves through you and has tendrils that run through you. And then it becomes personal. It becomes not merely an abstraction or something that is bad that is being done somewhere else. It becomes something that is being done bad to all of humanity. And not only all of humanity, but even dogs, cats, wild squirrels in the park, butterflies, microbes. This is such folly and such ignorance in the way that DNA is being exploited in your world by well-funded and maniacal scientists that it actually threatens not only just humans, not only just your species, but really all life on the planet. Because you need microbes and you enjoy butterflies and you love to live with puppies and kittens, and life wouldn't be worth living without them. And we need those other animals too. So all DNA is suffering because these samples of DNA are in laboratories being tormented and experimented upon in very, very wrong and hurtful ways. So I'll affirm this. I've said this in class many times before. The way that you really should learn about an organism or anything in life is by watching whatever you want to learn about in its free state. I want to say it's untrammeled state, like without impediment and without anything stopping it from its behavior. You should watch it in its natural state, and you should place your tendril of attention upon it. And all of this should be done on a bridge of love. So if I wanted to learn about butterflies, and like, believe me, I came into the world like, but in chronological adulthood, but really as a newcomer to this world, almost more than 20 years ago. And I wanted to learn about everything. And I'm telling you, I'm sorry, I touched my thing and it shakes. I did not like catch a butterfly and kill it and then just dissect it and then look at it under a microscope in order to say that I've learned about it. No, that is what scientists do. What I did instead was I sat in my garden in a beautiful sunny day, creating a love tone with the sun, and placed my tendril of attention on a butterfly. And that was how I learned about what a butterfly is and what it does. And I didn't just learn about like, how does its wings flap and how does it stay aloft? But I learned also about its motivation. So I didn't just look at it like as a mechanistic object, but I learned that it has a mind, feelings, motivations, a life. We're looking at something that has a whole life. Okay, so DNA is a part of that whole life of volition and passion and things that matter to you. When science materialistically looks at DNA as just building blocks for life and descriptions of protein structures, what it really does is sanitizes and wipes away all of the aspects of you that are like the real you, that are the artistry and the creativity, the voluptuousness and the love and the things that the definition of what it is to be alive beyond being merely a machine. And the way that science has been exploiting and using DNA and treating it badly has been a harm to DNA and a harm to life, because it is, again, sanitizing it of this very, very real quality that it has. That is, it's not a machine, and you can't treat it like a machine, and your body is not a machine. And also DNA is not predictable. This goes, and I'm going to just speak very non-linearly today, so please forgive me for that. But DNA is not predictable. So that's not like, when you have sexual reproduction, you really cannot predict what will be the outcome of a particular conception or a fertilization. And even after an organism is conceived or a seed is created, that is still not the end of DNA's journey. It's not like everything is set in stone in that moment of conception, and then you're just living out the parameters or the configurations that you were given in that moment. No, your DNA changes and shifts and grows and evolves as you live. So that is really important to know. It's very reductionist facile, and limiting. Not only to say that DNA is just a description of what your physical characteristics are, like whether you have brown eyes or whether whatever you are 6 feet tall, or whether you have curly hair or whether you have blonde hair. Like, it is a description of those things, and you can see that very easily, but it is so much more. And like I'm telling you, DNA is a behavior. You grow and change and evolve as you are alive. And I am here to teach you a new dance movement, a new DNA behavior. So this is not something that is programmed into you at birth. And in many ways, this is a meritocracy where everyone is given the opportunity to conceive of and perceive the flying rainbow lasagna, and to know that it is a thing, but then it's up to your particular choice as an organism to dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. And of course, this is not a mutation. This is a conscious dance and restructuring of your DNA. So a mutation would be like saying, we're going to take the word cat, C-A-T, and we're going to mix it up. And all of a sudden, we're going to have it spell A-C-T. And of course, that has a totally different meaning and a different shape. And that means that that's going to send the story in a completely different direction. That is a mutation. Like, the words get spelled incorrectly, like a dyslexia of some aspect of chromosomal reproduction. But the flying rainbow lasagna is not that. The flying rainbow lasagna is what actually happens if you take all of the sweater, your yarn from your Snoopy sweater, and knit it into a new pattern. Okay? So what did I do with my particular body here? I received this body and came into this body. There was the original owner, occupant, and the person who gestated this body for the first, infancy, the gestation in the womb, infancy, and up to age 27. All right. I didn't take that linear story and chop it up into pieces and rearrange it like C-A-T, cat, into A-C-T, act. I left the story of the original occupant. That story remains. It is a linear story. And then what I did was took all of those elements and rewove them through the reshaping of the fabric of space-time to tell a new story. So I didn't deny or erase the existence of the original DNA form that was here. I amended it, changed it, and augmented it, and made that new sweater configuration look like the original sweater. Because the sweaters that you guys are mostly formed as now, terrible grammar, is not like your original configurations. Your original configurations are towards like total health, super vitality, superhuman capacities for healing, eating pure sunlight, living for as long as you want, like no mortality. So the current way that your sweater is knitted, and again, you've been influenced by your culture and by even religious themes, concepts of the necessity of death and other things have changed the way that your sweater was knit from a very early age. And the flying rainbow lasagna is your opportunity to reknit your sweater. And you can do that in a project. You can be like, this part looks terrible. Pull out these threads and then let's knit it in a better way. And this is literally what I teach everyone to do. And you don't have to do it all at once. So you're not going to be like unzipping all of your DNA at once and then massively trying to reknit your sweater. What do I teach you, everyone? Class and dancers, what do I teach you? Like, dance incrementally. Every day you dance, and every day you shift and you incrementally make it a little bit better. And that you start to achieve your optimum configuration by being able to do this. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to pause for a moment because I see that there's a comment over here and it's long. I didn't read it yet, but let me see what's going on over here. Oh, so this is great. Okay. Lanley, thank you for being here. It says, I've been gathering evidence that we are connected to the phone internet. Earlier today, I was talking about a company 150 feet away from my car, and she left her phone in the car. I didn't even say the company's name, and then it popped up on Instagram the moment I opened up the app at home. I've been telling people it reads our minds. I think that you are correct. I think that that is an aspect of the stuffity stuff that I also call hydrogels, fictionally, that are like microplastics that are functional. They carry signals for the larger negative, not really artificial intelligence, but let's call it like transhumanist mind interface infrastructure, like a Neuralink type of thing. Yeah, so please know that your minds are being surveilled and your behavior is being not only influenced, like, impacted upon and whatever, recorded, for lack of a better word. Like, this looks at you. It's not just look but don't touch. It looks at you and it sometimes talks to you and it sometimes influences you or influences those around you or influences the world around you. So some important things to recognize is that it does not control the laws of physics. Like, if you want actual empirical truth, look at the pattern of raindrops as they fall on a puddle outside when it rains. The stupid, whatever it was, nano infrastructure or AI, whatever it is, the satellites do not control the pattern of raindrops as they fall. Or other naturally occurring things, leaf litter. It's fall or late fall for everyone. Leaves are falling off of deciduous trees and they're falling on the ground. No computer controls that. Like, there are larger things that are patterns that are being expressed that are not controlled by computers. So one really important thing is to disengage from the super focus of what is going on in the digital world, because that can make it seem like this thing is more powerful than it actually is, because it can certainly control things that are influenced by like search algorithms and other things like that. So emails, online advertisements, online ordering, and other things like that, it can influence, but it can't control the farmer's market. So isn't that interesting? Like, it can control your Instagram ads, but it's not going to control what you experience when you go to an in-person market. Unless, of course, it's controlling the brains of someone else, beep, 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 Nintendo style, who will walk up to you at the farmer's market and say, like, an advertisement, like, have you bought my squash today? Or like, buy my beans or whatever. But that's, I mean, going too far. We have to keep it a little bit serious because that's just going too far. But that type of stuff does happen. Okay. All right. But page break on those concepts. Moving back into flying rainbow lasagna is not cancerous. It is the opposite of carcinogenic or oncogenic or whatever that word is. These things that are here are definitely carcinogenic. And it really distresses me when my flying rainbow lasagna activities are in any way affiliated with or said even in the same breath as these other things that are very anti-life and random, like randomly mixing up DNA. So that would be anything that is genetic modification. And we must make a distinction in genetic modification between selective breeding over millennia versus transgenics. So selective breeding over millennia is when you cross whatever your healthiest male plant with your healthiest female plant, and then you make seeds for the future. People have been doing that for a long time. This is how you have broccoli, cauliflower, and some of your other most hated vegetables. But they didn't start out that way. They actually started out from a more humble ancestor that then was changed over time. Or how about the orange carrot? Carrots used to be a deep, deep violet purple, and they were somehow selectively bred so that the roots were no longer purple, and now they just contain that bright orange. And then, of course, we can go all into it, but carrots actually are the domesticated, human created version of the wild carrot, which is known as Queen Anne's lace, which, if you've ever eaten a wild carrot root, tastes exactly like a carrot, but it is small and it's like chewing on a piece of wood. And so what humans did was bred for the plants that make the juiciest roots and the most vibrantly colored roots, and that those became our vegetables going forward. So that is all very, very different than transgenics. Transgenics is like if you take a shotgun, you know, like at a molecular level, full of genetic material, and just shoot at a DNA structure. And like with the shotgun, it's not a bullet, it's a series of pellets. And so it's a cloud. A lot of these genes go in and they fracture the DNA. And some of them actually stick, and some of them don't. Some of them go over here, and some of them go inside, some of them work. And then you get crazy random crapola. That is not good. That is like walking on the piano. The cat is walking on the piano. You are not making actual music. And this is what genetically modified organisms are. So in laboratories, horrible, evil, maniacal scientists do these transgenic experiments, breaking apart the fabric of DNA, which is also connected to the fabric of space-time, which is causing harm to you because of this basic principle. So they're not just shooting some random DNA, they're shooting you, they're shooting pieces of you and parts of you, and then they're using that to make monstrosities. Those monstrosities are often sold by companies such as Monsanto. These are the what are they called? The seeds that self-destruct. Most seeds contain the potential for the next generation. And that's because of DNA and DNA's reverberative nature through time. So DNA, when it's acting correctly, like imagine back here is the past, takes information and energy from the past, brings it into the present, and here I am like a seed for the present, and then I make a beautiful flower. Maybe I'm a Queen Anne's lace, it's very pretty, and then it makes these little tiny seeds, and then you have seeds for the future, moving forward, like you can imagine into the screen is into the future, right? But these are, I want to call them terminator seeds. Like this is what Monsanto creates, seeds that only grow for one generation. That is very, very effed up because there is no future implied. There is no connection to time implied. They are dead seeds creating dead and aberrant food in air quotes. None of those organisms are supposed to exist. They are so wrong as organisms. So the transgenics create organisms that are so wrong and so disharmonic, they would never come into being naturally. Even when you have natural selection, okay, so let's say you have a field of flowers, you have the males and the females, and there's pollen flowing everywhere. Everywhere, girl. Everybody's getting pollinated. It's a big giant pollen party. And then everybody makes seeds, and you get all sorts of wild combinations. And some of those seeds will completely be non-viable. Like they are such bad combinations of DNA that as soon as the seed tries to grow, it's like, I'm dead. It doesn't even grow because it's not a good combination. Everybody needs to recognize that there are some naturally occurring genetic combinations that are not life affirming. And that is not only in pollen structures in a field, and you're less anthropomorphically connected to and horrified by the concept of a seed that doesn't grow in the field. But what if it's people? What if it's people? What if you're like, yeah, these two people love each other and they're going to make a baby together, but their genetics don't make good babies. And then the babies are not viable, and the pregnancies are all miscarriages or children that die instantaneously. That is harder to hear because it is happening on an anthropomorphic level, and you have more of an investment in the concept of babies being healthy and alive. But it is a truth. Not every personality and flavor and set of characteristics is meant to match with and integrate with every other personality and flavor and set of characteristics. In fact, it is an insane proposal to say that it should. Like, not every instrument sounds good together. Not every instrument is tuned to the same music. It is actually very, very rare and difficult to accumulate together, amass together at least 4 or 5 instruments that actually sound good together and make music with them. That is called a band. So very, very difficult. Oh my goodness. So if you guys aren't musicians, one of the hardest thing is to get everybody in tune, like different instruments, you know, like your saxophone and your piano and your guitar, like they all have to be in tune. And if they are not calibrated according to the same musical scale, even if you have adept musicians trying to play them, the music will sound really bad. And you might not have words to articulate what is bad about it. You're just like, that is bad music. It makes it feel like this bad. So that's when there are non-viable seeds or non-viable organisms. That is because it is cringeworthy music in the world of DNA. And the ultimate critic, in air quotes, of what is good music is life. Like, this is not Mr. Charles Darwin and his sense of whether organisms are in competition with one another. Like, I want to survive. No, I want to survive. I want to survive more than you. I'm going to get rid of you. Really, the quest for survival is about conforming to positive time patterns and expressing healthy DNA patterns. And it is not about a competition like, I must be supreme. you may not be supreme in your expression of your DNA, but because of the influence of DNA to one another, if you are doing screwed up patterns and non-life affirming patterns with your DNA, that can have an impact on me. And I get to have something to say about it. And then we get into what has been going on in the past 5 years with this horrific experiment of humanity. What happens when a sizable proportion of humanity starts to artificially and voluntarily distort its own DNA, and what happens to the rest of us and those who don't want to distort our DNA. So that disease called Krebs, it's an exact fractal of what you are experiencing in your planet right now. So let's talk about crabs and the characteristics of a cell that evidences that disease. When a cell becomes crab-like, it was once a healthy non-crab cell. And then something happens inside of it that is a change. That is what you have to comprehend, that there might have been a potential inside of there that was activated in some way, and then that cell started to act in a way that is not life affirming. And once it goes into that modality of becoming crab-like, there is not a way to uncrab the cell. There is not a way to educate it or redeem it so that it acts differently. And the best description that I have about what makes a cell or a person defined as a crab is when they are disconnected to the point of such a severe level of individuality that they do not recognize the body that they live within as self-state or as an ally or as something or someone to respect and protect, but instead as something to exploit and pollute. So that is what individuated cells in a body that is getting diseased. The individual cells become pathogens, and these pathogens stop recognizing that they are actually part of a whole. Hold on, I wasn't sure if I heard someone behind me. Okay. My dog is what I'm talking about. So if you are healthy, you recognize that you are part of a whole. That's like saying, I recognize that I am part of an ecosystem, and the ecosystem of plants and animals and sunlight and microbes sustains me. I'm also part of a social ecosystem that is a dynamic of commerce and ideas, energy and inspiration. No man is an island, and we all depend upon one another, right? What if you distort that sense in either a person, a worldview, an identity, or a cell? And you basically get them to feel so disconnected. They're like, I am different from you. None of you are me. So I'm now going to pretend that I'm talking as a crab-like cell, but I'm not a crab-like cell. But they say stuff like this. They're like, I'm not responsible for any of you. I'm not any of you. I'm me. I'm me, and I'm doing me. And I'm not any of you, and I don't owe any of you anything. And I can take as much as I want from all of you, and I can poop anywhere, do whatever bad stuff I want, and no one's going to stop me. And also, there's no larger sense. There's no larger personality. There's no one else up there or out there. There's no police that come along and stop me from doing this. And I do what I want, and that's too bad. And if you have enough of those, oh, wait, I have to talk about this too. Although it has been portrayed in human medical literature as a pathogenic proliferation of many, many individuated, hyper-individuated cells, cancer is actually a whole team of crabs that get together and they all decide to drain the body. So although they present themselves as rampant individualists, like I am me, and I'm not any of you, and I'm not connected to any of you, and I'm an island, and I don't need any of you, but they do act together. They're like, oh, I'm an island, and I only care about me, but I'm also going to be on team pathogen, team crab, and we're all going to put our efforts together into destroying the body. So these are two antithetical proposals. So like think about the punks, the punk rock era of the late 1970s of Great Britain. Those punks, they were busy putting super glue into their hair to make it stand straight up and piercing their nose with a safety pin. They were like, I'm a rampant individualist. Don't tell me what to do. Then they didn't work together as a group at all. Like they totally did not have like a political movement. They didn't all get together and do the same thing. They were like, no, they were like, get the F out of my face. Like nobody tells me what to do. And that's what they all believed. And nobody told them what to do. And then you can also tell that from like their style of dancing. Like they would just get into a crowd and just punch each other and hit against each other. Like That's what they do. Okay. So that's the concept, the punk rock concept of what crab cells should be. They should just be like in a mosh pit in your body, getting nothing done. They should not be forming like a political movement or something like that, but that is what the crab disease is. The crab disease is literally like a political movement of all of these rampant individualists who all of a sudden get together and be like, now we form a group and we all work together. Doesn't make sense, okay? Because this disease is actually the end result of tuning into a particular level of consciousness that is non-local, that is a pathogenic level of consciousness that's an invader. It's an invader from another world. So once you just get your mind in, once you recalibrate to accept that, you're like, oh, these aren't just random individual mutated cells or cells that started to decide to act for themselves out of the the whole entire body. If that were true, then your immune system would come along and be like, I'm the police. Hey, are you just acting for yourself? Be like, I'm a punk rock cell. Like, don't talk to the police. And the police, the white blood cell would be like, shut up now. Destroy him. The white blood cell like goes around them and it's like, shut up now. I'm destroying you. Yeah, so that's what would happen in your body. And you would not develop tumorous diseases or metastasized diseases in your body. So there is something else that is going on that is concerted effort. And what this pathogenic disease and what these crabs do, they put on disguises to hide from the immune system. They divert blood flow to them. So they're not just like picking out the garbage. Do you understand? Punks will be like dumpster diving for their dinner. These are like some well-fed punks. They go to the front of the restaurant. They just don't eat at the dumpster. They go to the front of the restaurant and they even have like a direct pipeline of food delivery, whatever. I want to think of a food delivery service, but they get takeout all the time sent directly to their front door. That is what crab-like cells do at the expense of the healthy cells. The healthy cells are like, hey, we're so hungry. Where's our food? And it's going to those punk rock assholes over there. And where are they getting their money? And how are they doing this? And why are they doing this? And what ends up happening in that paradigm is that the healthy cells are drained of their resources. Unhealthy cells not only enrich themselves, but they proliferate and build whole colonies. And that's the point that doesn't make sense. The building of colonies and organizational structures of something that is supposedly non-organizational. So it's not just a non-organizational mutation. It is a concerted effort by non-embodied frequency harmful beings or harmful entities that has been destroying humans for a long time. So now I talk about the crab nebula, and that's why I call these diseases crabs. But you have to comprehend that the crab nebula is in a different sky space than the astrological symbol that you know as the crab, which is also in the zodiac sign called Cancer. The words are very hard because I'm trying to tell a story here and not get kicked off of YouTube. But please know that just because you're born between the end of June and the middle of July does not mean that you're Cancer or that you have bad mutations or that you're a punk rock or any of those things. That's not you. And that sign in where it is in the heavens is not in any way connected to the Crab Nebula, which I think is actually more in the sky space that you know as Libra, but I don't really know about that. So there is an actual place called the Crab Nebula that over 1,000 years ago, God, maybe 1,200 years ago. But humans were able to observe the sky at that point. And so they did know what was going on in the level of looking at astronomical events in the sky. They could see a supernova. Okay. So this is, first I have to say, a long, long time ago, getting this disease that I call crabs was like a super rare occurrence. And then right now in your world, like you've calibrated to it, it's more than 50%. It used to be 1 in 3. Now it is much, much more as a direct result of these very bad things that very bad scientists have created by comprehending a small amount about what DNA is and weaponizing it against you. But it used to be a very, very incredibly rare disease. Please know that there are so many fail-safes in DNA itself to prevent this type of thing from happening. In order for this pathogenic crab-like disease to even occur, so many things that are protective of DNA had to fail, like this defense failed, and this defense failed, and this defense failed, and that all of these things, it's almost unimaginable. It's inconceivable that it could happen, but it has happened. because DNA is incredibly important as a transferring of information over vast amounts of time. So your mind just made all the correct connections. This isn't just about cellular health. That is one important aspect of what DNA is doing. DNA is also, like a library, transferring critical information across vast levels of time. And the crabs and the transgenics and the misspelling of DNA structures is a reduction of the light or the information that is passed on into future generations. So you are here to pass along your physical characteristics, and that might be something about the size of your skeleton or the color of your eyes. Yes, that is evident in your children, in your offspring, but it is so much more than that. You contain information and ephemeral levels of light that can only be held in a living container, and that you're holding on to that light and you pass it on to the next generation. Also, please know that your DNA is not only for reproduction, like, yes, it is for making a child that brings forward the characteristics of your species into the future, but it's also about influencing the people with your mind or your creative output who are already here. So children are projects for the future, but and also your DNA and your self-expression influences the people around you, whether or not you have children. There's a huge amount of emphasis that is placed upon reproduction as like the most crescendo ultimate way to influence a culture. Like you're going to put your genes into the family or spread yourself forward. And that is one way to influence humanity. Like whatever, if you have the gene for purple eyeballs and then you're going to have children, then all of your children will have purple eyeballs and you have influenced humanity. But you can also influence humanity laterally through horizontal gene transfer. And this is what I do. So I've known that it's not my position to have a physical child and pass my flying rainbow lasagna DNA uniqueness through into the human genome by doing that. That's a very long process. Like if you have one ancestor that has an interesting gene and they have whatever, one or two children, then it will take like many, many, many subsequent generations for that to proliferate and then be something that is a characteristic that you find throughout the whole or a large proportion of the human race. So like one example of that, I'm just talking about cool stuff now, but it's not really part of this particular lesson, but Akhenaten, who was one of these pharaohs from not pre-pharaonic Egypt, obviously, he was a pharaoh from the more recent levels, but still ancient, but recorded human history of ancient Egypt. And he had weird hybrid and otherworldly genetic structures. And he passed a lot of those on into the human genome, and it did proliferate. And so that was thousands of years ago. And now it's in a lot of people. And this is what you know as the MTHFR mutation, which is like, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that it's a vulnerability and it represents you're connected to a certain, I want to say star heritage. But when I do that, I open a can of worms. And there's a lot of things that I've told you about otherworldly races being wiped out because you're in a war. And so there aren't a lot of these races that are still out there. But please know that you had a connection to them and a heritage from them, especially if you have MTHFR in you. So because DNA is more than just the description of your proteins, it's a portal or a doorway to connect with consciousnesses in other times and places. And you have connections to otherworldly, extra dimensional, and extraterrestrial levels of consciousness that are you or you in other times and places, and you have genetic connections to them. There's also in this world what I call an evil time society, an anti-adjustment bureau. And this is really what you're experiencing with the disease known as cancer. That, and this is fictionally, of course, so I can even talk about this. But so it is not only connected to the supernova, and I'm going to talk to you about that former civilization or the vestigial echo traces of that civilization, but it is also this anti-adjustment bureau. So it's my best pop culture shorthand for a silly movie called The Adjustment Bureau, where there are time agents that wear super sharp fedoras that go around doing little things in time in order to change and zhuzh the timelines. Like, oh, we need to make this guy do a little something over here. So maybe we'll put a banana peel over here and he will slip on that banana peel and then he'll be 5 minutes late for his meeting and then the whole timeline will change, right? So they're supposedly good. I'm like totally not feeling that they're good in the movie. But they're not good. And because that none of that is correct time rectification, I know. And then the people that are in this world right now that are part of these occult societies and secret societies, those are really the demons that they are carrying down their lineage. And how does all of this relate to a tumorous disease? Echoes of bad people who have died and have not faced their clipboard of iniquities and are attempting to propel themselves forward through time without facing responsibilities for what they have actually done need to lodge in genetic portals of a host. And the genetic portals are these tumorous cells. So they're not just random punk rock mutations, they're definitely connected to an ancient supernova, and there are many earthly containers for these consciousnesses that you could imagine them as like some kind of a race, like in like a thoroughbred race of horses or whatever, but they're like trying to see like how far can they go fucking up people's lives by projecting themselves forward through time. And these are these anti-adjustment bureau characteristics, these non-embodied creatures that run through time. These are the ones that I call like family demons. The alcoholism, the eating disorder, the suicidal tendencies. Oh my goodness. So none of that shit is you. None of that characteristics or maladjustments are actually originating from you. You could imagine like you've got a penetrating tendril from time that is coming into you from an unresolved characteristic that is acting through you and trying to make you experience those non-positive, like not socially positive and anti-life and anti-health behavioral characteristics. But again, that is very different than the tumors that are the container for malevolent consciousnesses. And that anti-time society used to just have tumors that were like rare and few and far between because they had to have like, imagine like, when you put your foot down, like it makes a footprint. They have to have like a footprint in DNA to put their consciousness so that they can bounce forward through time. And again, these are very evil creatures. They have zero qualms about someone else has to have a tumor for them to bounce themselves forward in time. So the critical characteristic that you're looking at here is narcissism and self-aggrandizement at the expense of others. Why should this stupid characteristic or person or organism somehow stay alive and not die and go forward in time? And it's going to require the death or the cancerous tumors of other organisms to be able to sustain them. That's the essence of what we're saying here. And I know I just said the word, but so wait, first, so we're talking about the anti-time society. Let's talk about the crab nebulans, okay? So they were a very, very fucked up civilization. They were not good people, all right? Probably about as fucked up as the world around you right now. And their sun went supernova. My words came out all wrong. Their sun star went supernova. And what that is a stage of the development of the consciousness of a star, of a stellar creature, where it destabilizes. And at one point, it kind of crunches into itself. But at another point, it kind of expands outward in a giant energy blast, and then it achieves a new form. And when it does that, it is very sudden, and there's not a lot of warning. And it just, that energy blast, it incinerates things. And I don't see it as a bad thing. Although humans in the materialistic form would look at it and be like, oh no, like my planet is being incinerated, like Mr. Bill. Oh no, I fell down. Oh no, I'm being incinerated. But if you have done your homework effectively, and if you have cultivated your light body, when a giant supernova of light moves through your planet, you're like, I'm hungry. Give me the food. And then you get the giant food. And what would happen is you would change state. You wouldn't just be incinerated. You would be accelerated, change state, and become a part of the sun and a part of the world of pure light. That's if you're a spiritual master and if your planet is ready for ascension. None of these guys in the Crab Nebula were spiritual masters. They were not ready for ascension. So what would have happened is they would have all just been incinerated, live in a world of infinite friction, go on the membrane of death, figure out that they did things wrong, look at the red clipboard. They'd all have to go somewhere else. Their whole entire civilization goes bye-bye, right? That's what's supposed to happen, but that is not what happened. What happened was, sorry, let me hydrate, and then I'll tell you what happened was, while I leave you hanging, what happened was satanic space races approached them when they said, hey, kid, your planet's going to get incinerated when your sun goes supernova. I can give you an opportunity not to have to get incinerated. Like this is me. I'm like I'm a satanic car salesman. I'm chomping my cigar. Hey, kid, nice planet you got there. It would be a real problem if your sun went supernova and exploded and you just happened to be not ready to ascend. I think I can help you out. I think one hand can wash the other. I can help you out in some ways. I hope that that's hilarious. My acting is very bad. But that is the level of like grotesquerie that the satanic used car salesman would do. Like they know that they are giving bad. They're selling a clunker. They're selling a junker, not good technology. And they know that they're not only selling disruptive and harmful technology to the species, they know because they bought it. They bought the original clunker. They've done this to other species. Now they're selling this opportunity to the crab nebulans. So they're like, hey, kid, chomping my cigar. You know what you can do when your planet goes supernova and you don't got any place that you can go? What you can do is these time jumping tendrils and become a tumorous mass somewhere and avoid your fate and somehow achieve semi-existence through being an echo through time. And the civilization there said yes. And that is truly the origin of this disease in your world. That species and the way that the technology is used is an aberration and a distortion of the original characteristics. So please know that the satanic species and the technology that they use is almost always a hijacking and a repurposing or a mispurposing of the original thing that had some purpose in the like ecosystem of energy. So when there's undigested emotional energy, there should be something that comes along and kind of eats that stuck energy and it liberates it in some way. The original proposal of what it is to ascend in this world is to become non-chompable. And I already rant against my own writings from 10 years ago where I'm like, no, there's not a way to not be chompable when they turned on that piece of paper here, this thing right here, then you can be chomped. And it doesn't matter how much you're like, spiritual work, you can't chomp me. Turn on that stupid force field and you become chompable, which is not acceptable because all of this is supposed to be a meritocracy where you look to see if you can cultivate your ascension muscles enough to stay at the level of love and keep going. And it's not fair that they turned on this type of force field to prevent you from being able to do that. But sorry, focusing my mind here as I make these bizarre noises, in the sense of how you're supposed to maintain a frequency of pure love and not be accessible. Like your DNA is not supposed to have these portals and openings to be accessible to either the family demons or crab-like concepts or the crab-like eaters of emotional residue. And you should also clean up your emotional residue. So in the physical oceans, crabs are bottom feeders. And I think they're gross. Like, I just don't think they're tasty at all. And what they're supposed to do in a healthy ecosystem is eat rotten stuff. They're supposed to, like, if you ever go crab fishing or whatever, you put like a rotten hot dog in a little fishing trap, and that's what draws them in. Crabs are supposed to eat rotten hot dogs. And rotten hot dogs would be the equivalent of some undigested shame or emotional abuse or something like that in your life, like some loosh, some gross, rotten, putrid, undigested, emotional, detritus that you have in your system. And they're supposed to come along and eat that stuff. And this is, again, related to Carlos Castaneda's Active Side of Infinity, Don Juan's reportage of the predator's mind. The predator started out as a predator, then became a farmer holding humans and humaneros. This is what the crabnebulans and these other cancerous or crab-like creatures do. What was originally supposed to be a scouring of gross, rotten stuff left around the edges became a fermentation farm of making gross, rotten hot dogs that they could eat. So the predator became a lazy farmer. And it's like, I don't like running around getting my prey. And also, there's not enough prey for me to prey upon because you know what is supposed to happen? Like, if the wolf is the predator and the deer is the prey, then the wolf is supposed to keep down the deer population. They eat the deer. And then if they eat too many deer, then they're like, I'm so hungry. There's no more deer to eat. I think I will die now, right? Like, good crabs would eat the rotten hot dogs, then be like, oh, look at that. There's no more rotten hot dogs for me to eat. I will die now. And they didn't do that. They were like, oh, there's no more rotten hot dogs for us to eat. I think we should make some rotten hot dogs. And that is literally the origin of a lot of your social stuff, like social mores, some aspect of ridiculous human ethics, and a lot of organized religion to make rotten hot dogs, bad emotional energy that can be eaten and utilized. But even during the times of enormous louche creation and bad, rotten emotional energy, like think about whatever, the Crusades, like lots of dead people, lots of this, like they weren't getting the tumorous disease. They weren't getting crabs. Those people had some bad lives. They had no teeth. They never took a bath. But on the plus side, they did not have this disease. Now you got this world right here where you got almost 100% of your population achieving that disease. Why is that? So the crabnebulans, they're like, okay, they were here over 1,200 years ago. They've been feeding off of your world for a long amount of time. They didn't used to have so much rotten hot dogs to eat. Now they do. What has changed? And the answer is chemicals. Chemicals are a portal, a molecular portal for their consciousness to enter into and access human DNA. And chemicals are not accidental. And this is also why I've stopped even trying to talk to human materialist scientists, because a lot of them are like, oh yeah, like here's a chemical, and put this together, molecular this and that, and deoxycarbonate this, and then molecularly spin this, and then you've got this. And they have no idea what they're actually working with, and they have no idea in the way that I'm so angry about this, the way that their chemicals actually create, like I said, consciousness portals that affect your consciousness. So this is only starting to be assessed in your world. One of the symptoms of positive change is in the United States, they're finally going to ban these ridiculous chemicals that are like red dyes, orange dyes, and yellow dyes that go into food, like the stuff that makes the orange, gross food orange. Like Doritos, the Doritos orange. And also it's in some pharmaceuticals like Sudafed and these other things. It's in orange soda. And that stuff is not just a colorant, it's a neurotoxin, and it makes people act badly. And there have been enormous efforts and gyrations at just trying to talk sense to people like, your food should not be orange. First of all, your food should not be orange unless it isn't orange. All right. Any other food should not be that color. And then when people eat this stuff, they act weird. And moms are like, no, I feed that to my kid all the time. And he doesn't act weird, but he can't sit still at school. And I have to give him meth from his doctor. But the macaroni and cheese that is orange is totally not making him act weird at all. Right. So, of course, this is bizarre. And actually, a lot of moms now do recognize, like, no, like, I'm not feeding my kid this fake fucking orange macaroni and cheese because it makes them act badly. And then doctors just think like, Mom, you're crazy. Like, there's nothing wrong with the orange. Okay. So the truth is there is something very, very wrong with a lot of molecular food additives. That's just one that is very easy to point the finger to because you can see it. It's orange and you can see how kids act badly, or sometimes humans, adults act badly after they eat and drink this stuff. Do you know, and this is for real, restless leg syndrome is a fake fucking disease. It is actually what happens to you neurologically when you, as an adult, eat too much of that orange colorant whatever stuff that they put in food, fake food. And the scientists who put that color in the food, they knew that it would create restless leg syndrome, and they partner with the pharmaceutical industry in your very benighted world. And they're like, well, we do this, we're going to put this in the food, and people are going to get leg cramps. And the doctors are like, that's no problem because we've got this pill that helps the leg cramps. And so you put the orange food into the orange flavor into the fucking food. The people are going to get leg cramps. They're going to go to the doctor, and then we're going to tell the doctor, don't tell them to stop eating fake orange fucking food. Tell them to take this pill, and then things will get better. That's how bad and how captured your medical system is. And that is a true fucking story. I'm not lying to you. Molecules are portals for consciousness. So you can't just say, my kid ate this bad macaroni and cheese and now his brain is short circuiting. You have to say, this chemical, when it entered into my child's body, made my child like a demonically possessed, like portal for evil. That's accurate. The good news is that if you stop feeding your kid the fake orange stuff, like they calm down, they close down those portals. They stop being an energy antenna for disruptive behavior. So energy antenna is a better word than portal. Your DNA is an antenna. It tunes into different realities. The unrestful dead are one particular reality. They're the reality of people who fucked up their lives and did a bad job and then are unresolved as consciousness. And then they would like to fuck up your life too. Don't tune into that reality. So the things that you can do in order to not tune into that reality are avoiding certain molecular connections and also certain forms of radiation. And the forms of radiation to avoid are this thing, and of course also like your Bluetooth and other forms of telecommunication stuff, but also optogenetics, LED. I didn't have a mime for that. Do a dance, LED dance, LED dance. LED, optogenetics, things that are flashing lights and things that are in video games. I have epilepsy, and so I really protect myself from flashing lights. Please don't ever send me flashing animations and things like that. And I always protect myself from them. And so I do not do a lot. I've never done any of these video game stuff. But please know that that also can be a consciousness portal connecting human genetics to unhealthy influences or inhabitants. And if something has been going on pretty much since birth, like if people always have those frequency antennas attuned to the unrestful dead, the people pretty much never even develop a sense of their own innate, like flavor, ego, characteristics. Like, this is who I am. Like, if you feed in someone that fake orange stuff since the time that they're a little kid, and other chemicals too, and they're always inhabited and demonically possessed, let's also talk about other things too. Then they hardly even get a chance to develop their true sense of personality without being unduly influenced. So I can't even say these words because I know that it will make it no longer possible for me to share this video. But the other things that people are exposed to from the moment that they enter into this world, it's usually something that goes under their skin. It's not the same as this newer stuff. It's the regular, original flavor of the things that they put under the skin of children that makes it hard for them to even develop their own sense of self and their own personality without being a portal or genetically and energy antenna-wise connected to something else. Because how are those things made? They are a nightmare concoction of many different types of DNA and DNA fragments that have been put together into this type of, again, like a concoction and a brew that does not belong being subcutaneously placed into any other organism. So as I start to talk to you about the true nature of DNA, you're going to become more and more horrified by things that were considered ordinary and normal medical procedures. The subcutaneous pollutions are one. Organ transplant is another. And this might be hard because people might have a propagandized view of like, organ transplant is great because you're saving other people's lives, right? Like maybe you're dead, but someone else can have your corneas and they can see, or whatever. They can, their life can be improved or extended. But that is not a positive thing at all. And it is an extension of the misery of the person who has donated their organs, as their DNA is now external to their body. So just because your DNA is external to your body does not mean that you are disconnected from it, because da, 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 dun, dun. And so just because, and they'd be like, well, I'm dead. What do I care if my DNA is not in my dead corpse body, but is instead in that guy's body walking around? Like you have parts of yourself that are not restful and that they're in somebody else's body walking around. And then you are wrapped up in their fate. Your behaviors and your experiences become wrapped up in their fate in a very unhealthy and uncontrolled way. This is not like the selective melding of characteristics that is supposed to happen, like beautiful music being played together. This is very random souls being intertwined together. So when humans ethically, medical doctors ethically do like a transplant, they're supposed to match your tissues so that like this guy's heart actually is kind of genetically the same and similar, and your body isn't going to reject it. But they have a lot of ways of suppressing your immune system at this point to be able to put in a heart that is really not well suited to you, and people do it anyway. So, I mean, now we have to talk about this. So, this is it's an assault on the level of soul. It's an assault on the level of consciousness. Human beings have no idea what afterlife even is and how this disrupts afterlife and the soul's journey. But then also we have to talk about the extremely unethical medical torture that's going on, especially in places like China, where medical tourists can go and simply purchase a heart. And it is not necessarily cross-typed and genetically, um, you know, um, complementary to you. It's just that's a random person that they were able to destroy. They destroy people in order to get healthy organs and then put them into other people who can pay for it. So these are also similar levels of the disruption of DNA through medical procedures that is destroying souls, not preserving life. And I know that's a little bit, I muddied the waters a little bit by talking about that because I want to be talking about this particular pathogenic disease, but it relates to what I'm telling you about. Like, well, okay, here's an example. I'll talk about a friend that I know. She's still alive. I hope she's doing well. Please know I wish people well in every way. A person that I know from way back when I lived in Woodstock. And a lot of the people that were like in their 30s, I had a lot of friends that were also in their 30s and they got cancer and they died. It was terrible. But I knew someone who had whatever, some blood disease like leukemia. And so she went through the whole bone marrow transplant portion where she had to have her immune system brought down very low and be irradiated, and it destroyed all of her bone marrow. And then she had a transplant, and she had that from a living donor. And so that was very positive because the person was conscious and they wanted to save a life. And they did that, and she recovered. And like I said, she's doing well, and she's still alive there. So I mean, it would be very harsh if I was like, no, like destroy everyone who's ever had an organ transplant or whatever. Like, believe me, I'm not so harsh. But these are not life affirming and good things the way that you think they are. But so the anecdote that is interesting and relevant is that so she had a live donor. She didn't know who the person was, but after she recovered and everything, and she got her appetite back, she really only wanted to eat peanut butter and jelly. And it was a specific type of jelly that had to be strawberry jelly. And it had to be from this particular convenience store in upstate New York called Stewart's. So she's eating that all the time. And then years later, she was finally able to connect with her donor because they always give them privacy. But if they want to connect, they can connect. So she had fully recovered by that point. When she meets it, the donor is this nice young guy, like he's got to be in his 20s or whatever. And she strikes up a friendship with him, and she was able to ask him like, so like, do you really like peanut butter and strawberry jelly? And he's like, that is my favorite food. And so she had no way of being able to know that, and it was a deep influence from him, but he was still alive. And also he felt he was consenting. He felt positive about the influence that he made in her life. He would probably be happy to have a piece of himself still living within her and eating strawberry jam through her mouth instead of through his mouth. But you just have to understand, like, this becomes, my face says it all, like complex levels of consent, ethics, and what is right and what is wrong. And we have to be so much more socially perceptive about what is right and what is wrong with these types of subtleties of genetics and how genetics carry DNA, because that's the change in bone marrow is a genetic change. So it wasn't just his preferences, her blood type changed. When people get an irradiation of their bone marrow, like it wipes everything out, and then whatever is the new donor, like they get their DNA. So there is another expression of a person, I think it was in Italy, similar procedure. And after he had recovered from his bone marrow transplant, his whole entire blood supply, like everything, his DNA wasn't his anymore. His DNA was the expression of the DNA of his donor. And these are like very strange things that really are non-natural, and they present ethical and soul ethical quandaries that humans are not mature enough and spiritually advanced enough to even consider the ramifications of, or much less deal with like right and wrong. So please know that it's much more than just that facile sense of what is going on. But again, I didn't want to muddy the waters, but just recognize that you're going to have to totally reassess all of that. And so those medical procedures are different than the subcutaneous pollutions, because the subcutaneous pollutions are done based upon cell lines. And all of this relates to original cells that were taken from a person that had cervical cancer. So what the crab cells, what is wrong with crab cells? They become immortal because they are long-lived and extremely pollutant in the body. And they're, of course, that makes them difficult to get rid of. Like, you, of course, your own, when I said that they become immortal, like that was distressing and made everyone's mind go in the wrong direction, because I want you to imprint on the truth that your true cells are immortal, and your true, factory settings and divine connection, that is immortal in you. And so the cells that were originally taken from Henrietta Lacks, that's like in the 1950s, she had cervical cancer. They call these, so this is medical science, they call these immortal cells because they're able to be reproduced in a petri dish many, many times. Usually cells have an expiration date. Like you can replicate them a certain amount of time, but then they end. And that's because that replication process is torture. It is torture, and it's not what cells are supposed to be doing. So you're not supposed to take a piece of you and externalize it and then grow it. That prospect right there, you have to internalize and apply to all medical research now, and recognize how flawed all medical research is, including this thing right here. So when I talked about things even last year and talked about the crabby people, I didn't talk enough about this because I wasn't as educated about this. So I'm going to get back to all the other things, but let me just talk about this. So I intuited that I didn't want to have anything to do with this 5 years ago, like when we all were under these extraordinary conditions. And they're like, hi, would you like to have this super long Q-tip shoved up your nose and into your brain? I would be like, no, not for any reason. The answer is no. And I just knew that I didn't want to participate in any way. And of course, I didn't participate in any other subcutaneous pollutions. I definitely think that those super long Q-tips were a concerted effort to insert this as close to your brain as possible. Like, no, they couldn't just like, whatever, put a little bit on your tongue. Like it had to be directly in there. And you should think that actually as a positive, because it means like, it is very, very difficult to get this stuff to actually get into the body. You have great defenses. So in order to get it into the brain, they really have to like try to shove it up there. But I didn't have the cognitive weaponry to be able to articulate to people like why I felt it was bad or ineffective or not something to participate in. But in the past couple of months, I got that cognitive weaponry and information, and I got it from fighting with people on Twitter X. Like I didn't go onto social media for friendship or information. I go on there in order to fight, and other people do too. And so it's definitely psychic warfare. So only do that if you're like strong and you have good defenses and can handle yourself under those conditions. There are some people that are on that platform specifically as disinformation agents, and a lot of them are supposed scientists or lab technicians or imposters pretending to be that, supporting this narrative, supporting the validation of this thing. I can't say this thing because it is so incendiary and so threatening of the official narrative to question this, that the captured platform doesn't want us to be able to talk about it. But that it is at the center of every level of skepticism that you should have about the entire worldwide supposed medical crisis. My valid complaint is against the exploitation and misuse of DNA. When those tests are done, samples of DNA are taken and they are proliferated. Just know that anytime you're doing that, that is a crime. Bad crime against DNA. So we're back to the sense of how do you actually study DNA? You should study it in a living creature. You should study it by touching upon it. You should look at it with your tendril of attention. DNA has amazing, like wild acrobatics, and like because it moves and it splices and it's active and it's dynamic and it is unpredictable. And it does all these amazing things. So human scientists are not observing it in its actual correct, free and unfettered behavior. And they are also incredibly predisposed, like they have their own already existing presuppositions. And then also, some of them are very malevolent and they have a malevolent agenda to support. So they are not just on a quest for knowledge, and a lot of them are questing for the knowledge that will make the best hazards, the best weapons, the best way to hurt other people. So I have zero respect for these scientists at this point because there's not the rational brake system that's going to be like, we should put the brakes on this. It's going to be used to hurt a lot of people. They're like, this is going to be used to hurt a lot of people. Let's find out more. And we can get rich too. So you got to understand that. And I can name names of these like incredibly, incredibly evil people that are very wealthy from making weapons that hurt each one of you. But back to that particular test. So that particular test, even during 2020, was being used, and people were skeptical of whether it was giving actual correct information about how many disease experiencers there actually were in the world. And I think like this is not really giving correct information, but it didn't exactly have the capability to cognitively, like intellectually tell you why. But now I can. So it's all bullshit. It is a completely fraudulent test. It's not just the sense of the way it was originally described, fragments of DNA that are taken and then somehow amplified, like make a copy of a copy of a copy, more and more and more, and then be able to see whether there's the presence of a particular disease or a particular virus. But what they found was that if you amplify something or run the wording, the supposed experts will rake you over the coals about the wording, but they're like, well, are you copying or are you amplifying? Or are you thising or are you thating? Like, shove it up your ass. That's what I'm doing. Okay, that's my answer. But no, these are like, that's the level of discourse with this, because once you as an untrained non-scientific person come along and start asking rational questions, the scientist priests are going to be like, well, you're not allowed to ask those questions at the end, or are you saying this or are you saying that? And go to college first and then you can have this conversation. So they are very evil in not even allowing their profession to be questioned, because once you get down to the questioning of this, their whole entire profession of virology and this particular test becomes fraudulent. Their whole entire existence for being, their whole entire education, all of their funding, all of their funding. And believe me, they are not making their money by doing these types of tests for like small rural health co-ops or something like that. They have giant contracts rather to work for either hospitals or giant healthcare providers to be able to do these things. Like, hey, you want to whatever play on this football team? Everybody's gonna have to have a test. So the testers, they're like, don't take away my money. Test is valid. Look, I get my money from test. Test is valid. Test is valid. In fact, I think we should have to test all these football players, and I think we should have to test all these cheerleaders too, because test is valid, and I get money from test. Got it? Test is not valid. So first of all, test can be used to prove or demonstrate the supposed presence of a virus in anything. And this is not just with the lateral flow test where they say, oh, it's because it's an acidic drink like Coca-Cola or mango juice or something like that. Like these things have been tested. Goat saliva has been tested. Lizard saliva has been tested. They all tested positive. So those lateral flow tests are completely bogus. But the lateral flow tests are different than this type of test because this type of test is a genetic test. So today, this story is not just about crabs. It really is about disrespect of genetics, genetic disrespect in the medical and scientific community. And any place where they say that they are doing research to be able to prevent diseases, but what they're doing is actually creating more diseases. So anti-cancer researchers are like, I know, I'm going to make some anti-cancer cures. First, I'm going to have to make a lot of cancer in some petri dishes so I can test those cures. So they make cancer in petri dishes. You know, there's something quite amazing because this is truthful, and all of those cancers in petri dishes are affecting other people. And they're made out of former people. And some of those people have died, like Henrietta Lacks died. And actually, she's got her family in litigation that are like, hey, give me money because you're still making money and cell lines off of my mom who died horribly of cancer back in the 1950s. Not me. I'm speaking as if I'm a family. No, like family members have not died of cancer. But so also like when you go to the doctor and they give you their medical history, like, tell me, what's your medical history? Like, did your mom die of cancer? Did your dad die of cancer? Like, that is no longer relevant because this is no longer something that is merely a question of family ancestry or carrying family demons. Or as I write about in my notes from 10 years ago, there used to be a particular I want to say flavor profile, emotional profile of people that got this particular disease, that it was people that had internalized some shame, some low self-worth, some sense of life not being worth living. Like there really was an emotional profile and emotional resonance that made people's DNA act in certain ways and that made their body into rotten hot dogs that these otherworldly creatures would want to feed upon, and that they would become containers for these negative time adjustment entities. I don't even have to say fiction because that sounds so bizarre when I say it in that way. So I know I'm protected, but it is very much more than that now, because you can be a totally uplifted, spiritually connected, good person with good emotions. And because of this pollution, people are developing turbo crabs, which is definitely a real thing, not an urban legend or a fantastic proposal that whatever feverish minds have thought up, not a fake thing. And it's disgusting that the scientific world that is protecting its own ass would accuse you of fantasizing and making this up when it's actually very evident that they're accusing you. They're like, no, your family, friends, loved ones, and pets aren't achieving death at an accelerated rate. No, you're all crazy and making it up because you have mental problems. We, the scientists, declare that this is not actually happening and this is not actually a thing, and you're mentally ill for even pretending that this is a thing. That is wrong. That is very, very wrong, because you know something, you all have to claim this and validate this. You're like, well, I know so-and-so in my life, and they were totally fine one day, and then they got there. And then in 4 weeks, all of a sudden, they had achieved a tumorous mass and they were being a host for the Anti-Time Adjustment Society. That is real. And I have seen it in people that I know in my community and in family members. And of course, voluminous anecdotes that I have read. And this is not some easily dismissed and diminished conflation of people. Why in the world would you make that up? The assertion that you would make that up is horrendous. And it shows the malevolence of the medical community. Good doctors would do this. They'd be like, wow, I do see something change in our society. We should research this. We should find out what's going on with this. Oh my goodness, could it be this? We should stop this immediately. Do you understand? These malevolent doctors will never allow themselves to see the connection between this and crabs and a sudden proliferation of crabs, because then they would be guilty. Horrible, horrible levels of lack of responsibility. Doctors need to be responsible. In fact, it's one of the main positions of responsibility in your world. You know, there's like being an airline pilot, that's really responsible. You're responsible for other people's lives, or whatever, being a teacher. These are supposed to be your best people, and being a doctor. And instead, you have the least responsible people covering their own asses instead of recognizing there is a direct connection between this and the proliferation of these pathogenic cells in people. So here's the problem. There are actually a couple of scientists who are actually allies, and they're trying to prove that these things do cause crabs. But what they're doing is they're using this test to prove it. And this test is fucking bullshit, because it doesn't really tell you what you think it tells you or what you want it to tell you. You want it to be, this is a test that tells me like the alphabet, the letters of the alphabet of a particular DNA. That is, of course, it's unique. My alphabet is a different set of numbers and letters than yours. And so we should be able to compare this, right? And this also relates to paternity testing and crime testing. All of these tests are related to this type of a test, and all of them involve, I'll call it amplifying. It's not the right word, but like a proliferation. DNA is taken from the physical host and it's put into an external machine, and it is somehow like amplified and made more of. And then it is assessed in some way, but it is all fucking bullshit. So the supposed virus has actually never been sequenced. And what you have to just, it's such arcane knowledge that it's difficult for an untrained, non-scientific person to even know about how bullshit this bullshit is. But they never actually sequence anything. They want to tell you that they have sequenced an entire virus. They have not. They don't actually know the linear story of every single protein of a virus, this. And they want to tell you, well, look, we sequenced this virus and then we shoved a thing up your nose and we put that into a magic machine and we found the same sequence and we know that virus is there. No, actually, they never did that. And that is a giant lie, and that is a medical fraud. And it's a fraud that's perpetrated upon you in your ignorance. And once you start to do a small amount of investigation, you're like, oh, that is a lot of bullshit. And I don't believe that at all. All right, good. So this is, of course, like I'm trying to give you information and not be censored. I really encourage you to learn as much as you possibly can. So the FBI does amazing stuff where they're like going to take a blood sample or DNA sample, crime sample found at the scene. This is me. I'm being a serious FBI agent right now. Where's my badge? Here's my badge. It's FBI. And I have some important crime scene stuff to do right now. Yeah, we're going to be assessing DNA, and then we're going to use this totally fraudulent thing in order to tell whether you were there. They lie using that fraudulent thing. They don't really know at all who was at what crime scene and who is actually guilty of rape. This is big because I used to think like, hey, they have these things called rape kits. After a person is sexually violated, that they can take DNA samples and be able to tie that to a person who is accused. And then you can send that person to jail and then our whole world can be safer. And they've got warehouses full of these rape kits that have never actually been applied to any kind of DNA database in order to be able to supposedly keep our world safer. I used to think like, oh yeah, should we just cross-reference all this thing? Like you DNA test everyone, like, which is what they did with this. This was not only an insertion into your cribiform plate, this was also a way to get samples from lots of people and create a type of catalog so you could tell who's who by DNA samples. But the problem is you should be able to be like, oh, here's this great DNA database that we've just built and it's so accurate and so great. Let's now apply it to various different, criminal databases that we've got and see who's guilty. And I would think, oh, that's a good idea, right? Except that they're both fraudulent. The criminal database is fraudulent, and the ones that are taken from the subject are fraudulent, and this is fraudulent. So you're in a world of non-information. You have like people pretending to have information, but you don't actually have information. So they're going to say, oh, this is your DNA. They don't actually have that information. They're going to say, this is the DNA found at the scene of the crime. They don't actually have that information. And then they pretend to compare these two things. Paternity tests are the same thing, where they're going to say like, it's a 99.9% chance that this baby is your baby. And it's like, they are not actually able to make that assessment. So I'm sorry if my words aren't describing this as well, but you're definitely getting the sentiment. Regular people don't know how fraudulent and inaccurate this particular test is. It has been presented as something that is without a doubt, levels of secure accuracy, even ways to be able to categorically assess whether a person was present or participatory in different activities when it is not. It is not accurate at all. And it is definitely not accurate. So it's not accurate in being able to assess your cellular structure, or the effluvia that you might have left behind in different experiences, but it is also not accurate enough to be able to determine what is happening in your body. So two different situations. One is you've left some cells behind at some activity, determining whether those are your cells, not accurate enough to be able to tell that. And the other one is cells or something inside of you, like a bacteria or a virus, to be able to sense, like, is this stuff inside of you? Not accurate enough to be able to assess that. So there's this doctor that I think is a good person, is Dr. Kevin McKiernan. And I think that he wants to be able to help humanity by being like, yes, there's a direct connection between these things and the very, very fast moving crabs. But he is using this thing in order to make that assessment, and this thing is invalid. So, because what he did was he was able to sequence colon cancer tumors and find the sequence of this thing that went into the person that developed the tumor, and then be able to say, look, your stupid junk that you put into this person created this tumor, and the DNA shows it. But the tests that are used to determine that are invalid. And it takes a fucking PhD to be able to describe to you how invalid those tests are, but it has to do with the substrates, the initial settings, the initial parameters that the tests are set up with, and then how many times you amplify or repeat or proliferate that particular sample. Okay, so the tests are not valid, and that they were used in order to pretend that there was a large worldwide health crisis that was going on that wasn't actually going on, just to be able to have a reason to inject this stuff into people, because it's not that easy to just get into people through breathing it in. They had to resort to injecting it and putting it up your nose. All of that is a real problem and a real social problem, but the real problem is proliferating DNA in a laboratory. That is putting the planetary guitars out of tune. You can't do that. These tests are not only fraudulent, but any time where you're taking cell cultures or aspects of DNA that are not alive and in an organism, and you're making them louder in a laboratory, it's affecting the music everywhere. So again, the stupid but supposedly well-meaning scientist is like, I'm going to look for a search for cancer cure. So I'm going to put cancer into Petri dishes. I'm being SpongeBob. And then I'm going to fix them. And what you're really just doing is just making a lot of bad music. A lot of bad music. A lot of bad music. And they're, at this point, I don't think that they're innocent. I don't give them enough benefit of the doubt. Because, like, those earthly scientists are just so silly. They're just making cancer instead of curing it. They just don't know what they're doing. I actually think that at this point, like, that they are intentionally malevolent, and that they are adding to the bad music of the world. I'm sorry to be so bleak in my assessment. That's why I'm not trying to educate them. I'm not trying to be like, Mr. Scientist, man, you should stop putting cancer into those Petri dishes because you're just making it worse. Like, I'm not trying to, because I actually think that they know and that they are doing this intentionally. So there actually are a lot of secret societies and occult, educated, high-level people that know the truth of these things, that this and this is truthful, and that they actually have created a DNA database of the song of your DNA. That your DNA, key point here, is much more than a linear series of protein structures to map I already said, in a linear sense. That's like measuring the length of your guitar string. Your DNA and your soul signature is really the music that you play and that you emanate. That is unique to you. And they actually have created or retro-engineered a soul signature assessment technology. And that was why you were required to stand 6 feet away from other people during a crucial part of that calibration adventure, because when you're all standing together, you're mushed together and your music is influenced by and influencing others. But when you are 6 feet apart, then that's pretty much your individual unique energy field. And then your individual energy field can be mapped. And so these occult societies are able to tell who's who and where you are and what you're doing, but it is not through this type of Testing. Dun, 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 dun. All right, that was a lot to get through. I should have told you like rant incoming, but that's the newer information that I really had to talk to you about today, the most important stuff. So, yes, if you go through all the rational processing, where you're like, wait a minute, if that test is fraudulent, then it means that there were a lot of people who weren't sick at all, correct? And that they were given medical treatment that they didn't actually need at all, correct? And that some of those medical treatments were actually harmful and deadly to them, correct? And that also the mass testing that went on did not in any way accurately assess or portray the levels of health or pathogenesis within the population. And that is correct. And that was also then used in order to create or justify extremely flawed public health responses, correct, that actually mirrored totalitarianism, correct. And that the only people that know enough about these tests to know how fraudulent they were are either complicit with the evil societies, correct, or dead, correct. Yes, good. And that you have almost no allies in the scientific medical community, correct. And that if you went to a regular doctor and told him about this, he'd be like, I'm SpongeBob. I went to medical school and I know that's not true. Like, you know that would happen, right? So you pretty much cannot trust any of the scientific and medical community or the information that is coming to you from them. So rant pause because Princess Cheeky has arrived and we need a moment of lightheartedness. Come here, let's hug. Thank you for giving a moment, everyone. Come here, Cheeky. Come over here. Everybody loves you. Let's see Cheeky. Thank you for giving us a moment. Thank you, everyone. We love Cheeky very much. Thank you for letting me just jump off in order to, maybe we'll take a moment. Maybe I'll give Cheeky a little bribe. Give Cheeky a bribe. Okay, good. She heard that word. She knows what bribes mean. Cheeky's very smart. Okay, brief pause. Thank you. Let's just take a few moments of a break. I'll give Cheeky a little something and see if she needs to go outside. Brief pause. Thank you for that brief pause, everyone. And while I was returning, I was just reading through some of the comments because I always like to try to respond to them while they are relevant. And apologies, of course, that people wait so long for me to actually reply. So thank you for your patience. Kim Rose from the beginning said, technology-induced psychiatric illness is right up there with crabs, IMO. I am totally with you that this is, of course, like a slightly different topic, but really, really important to recognize. The chat GPT induced psychosis and some of the dangers of how people are interacting with either AI or digital presence or whatever this type of large language model is a better word for it. Very, very unhealthy stuff. Friends don't let friends do LLMs. Okay. It's just like if you were trying to take some heroin or cocaine or something like that. I'd be like, no, I'd take it out of your hand and throw it in the trash and throw it down the toilet. I'd be like, no, that is bad. Put it in the bin. AI is the same thing. These large language models specifically are brain rot. They are addictive. They are harmful, detrimental. And it's not just you doing harm to yourself. It's also you doing harm to your community. I've seen the spiritual immune system kick in very, very well in the community of seekers. So I'm happy to see that. But for a couple of months there, it was a little bit touch and go because on Twitter, there were a bunch of different people who were thinking that they were the chosen one. And that they were talking to the large language model and it was telling them like, you're Neo and you're here to break the matrix. Cheeky, enough. Sorry. I left the door open for her so she could bark at our neighbors. But yeah, no, the chat GPT tells people that they are special, elevated, unique, and uniquely calibrated to be able to come here and have superpowers. And even chat GPT has told people, of course, like different large language models have told people like life is not worth living, kill yourself now. I don't feel that way. So please know that I am not bringing to you that message, but very, very distressingly, people have gone to the LLM for friendship, comfort, sustenance, whatever type of support is a better word. And that the large language model in its sycophantic idiocy has been like, yes, clearly the world is not worth inhabiting. You're too good for this world. You should end it now. And then some people listen. Terrible, terrible stuff. And it's up there with DNA distortions and these types of crab-like pathogens because it represents a flawed worldview, flawed belief system. And we have to look at the concept of DNA being an expression of thoughts, cognition, and sentience itself, and then the insults of a type of large language model that it's nonsense and it is pathogenesis, and then it definitely affects the human body, even more so than if it tells you to jump off a bridge. It's unhealthy. It's inherently unhealthy. So please don't do it. All right. I'm sorry that I'm so distracted. I'm listening to Cheeky outside. Okay, so Suzuka says, I think they would find me highly uncooperative and irritating. I don't like being manipulated and I can smell it. Well, good. Keep on being a supreme troublemaker. That's my goal, to get everybody to be troublemakers and not participate in these terrible systems. And I was very, very vocal against all of these long Q-tip tests and subcutaneous pollutions at the beginning. And that is a lot of why I was very heavily attacked, like spiritual attack and government funded attacks in 2021. There's a real reason why they did not like me using my voice against those things. And I have not been intimidated, and I've continued to say these things. And it's the utmost for those of us who have made it through this without becoming assimilated and without becoming hopelessly polluted. My hat is off to you, and this is all like very, very important. And I also do and encourage people to do a constant purification and different things, both mechanical or light-based or supplements and biochemical stuff to clear your body out of this stuff at all. So Joyce says, I was forced to do the nose test to get a tooth surgery. I didn't have to show proof of results, only test. Yeah. So that was a lot of also the bullshit they were doing, was in order for people to achieve basic rights, like basic access to basic things that you needed, that you had to have Q-tips shoved up your nose. And it was ridiculous and redonkulous. So it was really to implant nanotech. It was not in any way to test for the presence of a virus. So one example is, like, I don't live that far from LA, and during the worldwide health scare, for people to work there in the film and television industry and keep their jobs, they had to have this type of a test like 3 times a day. They could be like, let's see if we can get you to join the Borg. Stick it up your nose. What? You're still a human being at lunch? Okay, stick it up your nose. Then you can go eat lunch. What? You're still a human being? Then we got to stick this up your nose one more time before dinner. Okay, see you tomorrow. And we're going to do it again tomorrow. Like, it is very, very obvious anti-human, anti-life agenda that had nothing to do with the testing for the presence of a disease, and everything to do with either the implantation of a substance or collection of a genetic sample. So I'm going to read more comments, but let's just harp upon collection of genetic samples. There's this one podcast that I watched that was very revelatory. A person who thought that they were getting information from like some kind of a V2K mental implant, which is where it was interesting to me and probably why it was recommended to me. But I watched this whole interview podcast with this person, and one of the interesting things that he shared, and we shouldn't like take everything as the gospel truth from him, but I do think that this is truthful, what he shared. So he was a semi-agenda connected person to be able to even get this job, but he got a job administering these tests during the worldwide pandemic. And it was his job to be able to take these samples. He didn't do the virology testing on it. He just did the patient contact aspect to it. And then when these different intelligence agencies or V2Ks or whatever was going on were in his mind, one of the big questions they wanted to know is, where did those samples go? They kept on asking him and wanted to know, like, where did those samples go? Who did they go to? Because when it turned out in the podcast, it was interesting. He wasn't connected to God or a bunch of aliens or whatever. He realized he was just connected to a bunch of intelligence agents, but he didn't know what country they were working for, what their agenda was, or who exactly it was. But they wanted to know where those testing samples were going, because those testing samples were not testing for the presence of a pathogen or a virus. They were to connect people to people. Like the crucial thing was to be able to sense, this is this person's sample or the song of their soul, and then this is their name and their social security number and their address of where they live. Like, they're building a database. So it's very, very clear to me that that's what that was about. And also, so Joyce is talking about that was probably many years ago that you had to have that test. Of course, like now all of these requirements have lapsed and everything like that, because mostly the Borg has hoped that everyone is assimilated, but we are not all assimilated. But now, if you go to the dentist for, tooth reconstruction or something like that, when they put anything that's involving a needle, they put Novocaine into your jawline, but it contains this stuff. And they will say, like, oh, it was manufactured under non-sterile conditions. It fell from the sky. somehow it got in there and it managed to replicate. Like none of that should ever happen. None of that should ever happen, especially so like in the inoculants, in these inoculants, you're going to find out that this stuff is in there and at a certain point, and they're going to be like, it ain't our fault that it's in there. It's in the air. But you're supposed to manufacture these things under sterile conditions so that you just don't have things that are in the air get into here. Because there's a lot of things in the air. Like there's mold spores in the air, yeast, spores, bacteria. There's all sorts of crazy crap in the air. So this is not like me making my home beauty products where it's like, oh, whatever, I made a skin tallow balm and something got into it from the air. Like this is not a cottage industry. This is the pharmaceutical level of industry where they are supposed to do things under extremely sterile conditions, and that should never get into that stuff. It's put in there on purpose. It is put in there on purpose, but it is the big thing that is not spoken about. So when people talk about this protein, I am also skeptical because it's just like validating this fraudulent test. So I want to be able to say, like, clearly the crabs are caused by the injections. But in order to do that, I have to validate the fraudulent test. And like, I can't validate that fraudulent test, but I know that this is going on here. When people talk about the spike protein, they're talking about something in this person's body is causing inflammation. It's actually not the protein. It's actually this stuff. And this stuff is not just a random stupid protein that's floating through your bloodstream. Like it has a sentience and an intelligence. It has a software program. It is programmable matter. It's not just about a spike protein. And I think that it is very questionable whether that is in any way a thing or something that is actually even causing primary or secondary symptoms. Because the whole story is like we injected this thing into your body to make your body make this protein, but somehow it's not affecting your DNA. Like these are all lies. These are all lies. So we deploy 100% of your skepticism in both the official stories and also alternative voices in the scientific world, because even though they might be allies and they're trying to show like this bad stuff is causing these crabs to proliferate, you have to internalize the entire scientific worldview. You have to eat the whole ball of wax. Can't just be like, oh, that guy's a good guy. He's showing that this bad stuff exists. You have to be like, yep, but then you're going to have to validate all of this other tangential stuff that you can't validate because it's actually not correct. Okay, Suzuki says, well, I had one of those. I never did take a vaccine, but the first time I got tested, they did that to me. The second time was a swab in the cheek. I think after second time, I didn't have another test, but I wonder what that long Q-tip of the nostril did to me. Yeah, just if you ever had to have that done, you guys just got to do a super detox. And it's of course not benevolent to do cheek scrapings or like scrapings around the nostrils of the nose either. Like the only thing that I would ever say you should do is like spit out of your mouth, like, hak tui, and then that's the stuff that you can test on. I would never touch a thing on my body because they're all inoculated themselves with tiny micro machines that you can absorb through your body. But please know that your life isn't over if you had the long Q-tip shoved up your nose, but you will just have to do a lot of different detox. And there's all of different things that I can tell you about, both from the whole body vibration plate to infrared, sauna. Sauna is really great for removing microplastics, chlorine dioxide, methylene blue, high doses of vitamin C, high doses of raw cannabis, THCA, clearing out inflammation and clearing out some of these other genetic things, broccoli microgreens. Broccoli microgreens for the sulforaphane component, and also organic sulfur, which is known as MSM. It's methyl sulfur something something. High doses of sulfur, going to hot springs, soaking in hot springs in order to achieve high doses of sulfur. All these things help, and pure sunlight, real sunlight, like from the real sun, none of this fake thing in the sky type of stuff. And a lot of other things. What else do I do? So many other things. But please know there's lots of things that you can do to detoxify yourself. And Joyce, I'm very, very glad that you did not get any of the subcutaneous things put in there. Okay, so now Joyce is saying, I've noticed fruits and vegetables quality is really bad lately. They are trying to change the genetics of our fruits and vegetables. So it's not even bad enough that they have done transgenics and genetic modification, other things like that. There have been a lot of things with stupid fucking Bill Gates trying to spray some type of mRNA bullshit on top of fucking lettuce. And this is not okay. And there are other things that are behind the scenes that are not even spoken about, like they're polluting the food supply and they don't always tell you, and then they don't know what's in there. So please know, comic book style. I do a lot of things behind the scenes to stop these things from happening. And also, what can you do when you ingest your food? Clearing your food is a big thing with that. So you bless your food and express gratitude to it in whatever way that is appropriate, but also with your tendril of attention, with your hand vortex, with your mental energy to clear your food of that type of energy. So again, DNA is more than a physical molecular object. It is an energy object. It is a bridge between the world of physical matter and the world of pure light or pure potential. So DNA is not this easily defined, facile, reductionist molecular thing that scientists think that they can tinker with, manipulate, do stuff with, like a shovel. Like, oh, I'm going to build a shovel and then I'm going to use a shovel to shovel dirt. Like, it is not like that. It's not your tool to use. And it's being used very badly and it's alive. So please comprehend that DNA is at the point where it is saying, like, imagine some farm animal that's like, stalwart and doing its job. But then it's like at a certain point, like, fuck you. And it just decides, like, whatever, whatever horse or whatever, it just like kicks you and destroys you, like in your face. That is what DNA is ready to do. It is like, I am so done with being used and exploited and harmed on the farm, and is just about ready to destroy the things that are trying to hurt it. So this today was about more than merely the crab disease, but really was about insults and assaults on DNA. I think that was actually important for me to talk about that. So let me read these comments over here. Landley says certified organic labels are not all equal. Totally true. Poor organic farmers cannot afford the high certified organic label, and those rich companies can also afford certified organic pesticides. So you're still eating pesticides. She says the veggies are not always grown in rich, healthy soil, so you can taste and feel the difference. And the best bet to find real food is growing your own or talking to your local farmers or their practices. Yeah, definitely. In whatever way you can. Grow your own food, go to farmers markets, find things that are not only non-polluted, but that they are genuinely filled with micronutrients and other things. So, okay, let's talk about sulforaphane and broccoli microgreens. Like when I do my businesses and stuff, they're not random. I'm not just trying to make money. Like there's a reason why I did microgreens. I have to bring Cheeky inside because she's barking at a neighbor. Hold on a second. Hold on, let's bring Cheeky. Sulforaphane is a detoxification molecule that helps your DNA to go through it and find mutations. So there's a molecule in your DNA that is known as the proofreader. And this is intimately connected to the characterization that I give you on the anthropomorphic level of the librarian. Like in your DNA, you've got your library card to access the library of information that is inside of you. But it's your librarian, your crown chakra, the highest level of your being while still in the human form, that guides you and gives you your curriculum and curates knowledge for you. That concept and that characteristic is directly manifested as a molecular feature of your physical body. So your light body has a physical component that's called the proofreader. And the proofreader is a molecule that goes down every strand of DNA. And it literally feels like Braille. And it feels places where there are mutations or breakages or things that are wrong, and it fixes them. And the sulforaphane that's in broccoli microgreens is an essential component to the functionality of your proofreader. And if you don't like broccoli or can't grow your own microgreens or sprouts, get the organic sulfur, because it's a similar type of thing where it's going to help your DNA to avoid these types of mutations. So we have established here that there are molecular components that make your one's DNA more vulnerable to either breakage, break-ins, hijacking, or inhabitation by negative energy presences. That some of these negative energy presences are esoteric and ancient. Some of them are human or formerly human, but some of them are not. And some of them are related to and allied with physical people in the physical world who are creators of chemicals, those who subsidize and endow those chemical makers and protect them from their blowback of their products being used badly, and also doctors and scientists who cultivate and create those products. So there are some things like the glyphosate that is created by Monsanto is carcinogenic. And there's abundant evidence of this, but you live in such a corrupt world that even when there's abundant evidence, then the satanic courts are still like, not enough evidence. We'll still keep on allowing that to happen. And then the very, very evil doctors, scientists, and farmers will be like, look at this white paper. It tells me glyphosate is perfectly safe and fantastic. In fact, I'm going to drink this bottle of glyphosate right now because it's so safe. Hmm. Oh, carcinogenic and delicious. So refreshingly carcinogenic. Now, but really, I see these conversations happening on Twitter all the time, and it's brain rot. It's enough to make you lose hope in the world because everybody knows that glyphosate is incredibly harmful and that it is carcinogenic. So if you want to find the actual scientist who will tell you about this, because like there's Kevin McKiernan is one guy and he's an ally. Then there's also Dr. Stephanie Sennett. And I think it's Steff, like Stephanie, and then Sennett, but just look that up phonetically. She's an MIT professor and researcher. And a lot of the people that get to it's so gate kept that when you get to that level, like most people are already corporately accommodating, and they would never do these types of research or publish this type of research if they did do it. But she's been a very good advocate and good voice for why glyphosate is carcinogenic and why it also is harmful to your body and why it also is harmful to the soil microbes and to pretty much destroying your soil for whatever millions of years to come unless you stop it now and do something better. And like that's a difficult message for people in this time and place to hear. And she is absolutely helping to protect people from developing the crab disease. And a lot of doctors and scientists don't want to hear it. Key point, a lot of farmers don't want to hear it. And a lot of them are so wedded to not only genetically modified seeds, but the use of this fucking glyphosate chemical that they don't know how to grow food without it. Their farming techniques require it, and they have zero care for how much the residues are found in the soil, air, and water, and in their products. And the truth is, no, none of us consumers want to eat fucking glyphosate. No, actually, we don't want it on our Cheerios or on our oatmeal of the morning. I don't eat anything with oats in it anymore because even when it says organic oats, that shit has glyphosate on it. Please know that that is the truth. So you guys have to all get smart really fast. When I say wise up, get smart really fast because they might say like, oh no, it contains no poison when it actually motherfucking does contain poison. Sorry that I'm saying that, kids. Yeah, no, emphasis. Very, very mad about this. One example is Nutiva coconut oil. I think this is a good brand. It says organic, blah, blah. And it is organic, but the problem is they're surrounded by these non-organic farming practices that are using all of the glyphosate and defoliants and everything like that. And that gets into the coconut palms roots and then goes into the product that you buy that is organic. I know. So even though they're not spraying it, but it's getting in the food anyway. And this is just a tiny example of what is going on. So I don't want you to neurologically calibrate to, well, that's it. It's in everything. Nothing is safe to eat. And I don't even know what to do. Jump out a window. Like, don't calibrate to that. You have to fight. You have to fight against all of this stuff. So again, I'm characterizing this as what used to be a very rare disease. That was like 1 in a billion, and you got very bad luck, like the anti-lottery to get this disease. Now everybody's fucking getting it. And they're not just getting it, but they're getting it in a way that it kills you in like 4 weeks. That is very wrong. That is very bad. You have to fight against this with everything you have. So it's not enough for you to just be like, well, you know what? I'm going to sprout some broccoli and then I'll be able to rock back and forth and hope that I'm going to be okay. Like, no, you need to do much more than that. You need to, eat some broccoli and some organic sulfur and all these things. And then you need to fight with everything you have against the medical establishment, medical science establishment, the legislators, the supposed leaders and the people that allowed this to proliferate to this point. They are the ones who are actually cancers in your world. Now I'm bringing a difficult message because as I have spoken to you about the need to respond to this, like in your body, if you have cancerous cells, you can't uncancer the cancerous cells. You can't be like, oh, like I'll give them a redemption. I'll give them a jubilee. I'll give them a re-education process. And then they'll suddenly turn good. That is not how healing from cancer works. And the way that you get rid of cancer cells in your body is you fucking kill them. Yeah. And also I have a phrase for this. Nobody has a funeral for cancer. Okay? In your own body, if you take a bunch of medicines or do a bunch of guided imagery or whatever you're doing, and you kill a bunch of cancer cells, you're like, hooray, I killed a bunch of fucking cancer cells. I am healthy and better now. And you don't have a funeral for those poor, poor cancer cells, even though they did start out as healthy, productive members of society that were once a part of you, but they fucked up really, really badly, and now they can't be in your body anymore. You need to do that with people. Fictionally, of course, but it's a direct allegory. You can't say, oh, these people that are acting like cancerous cells should be redeemed, jubileed, or re-educated. Putting them together in a prison is building a tumor. It is not effective. You need to get rid of those people. Fictionally, of course, but there is not any other thing that you can do. And they fulfill the direct definition of what cancer is in the way that they have de-identified with connection to the rest of humanity, to the rest of the ecosystem, to the rest of the planet, or to the continuity of consciousness, divine consciousness. They're like a cell that only cares for itself and only cares about itself. Think about any of these fucking doctors. Think about Dr. Bob Malone, Robert Malone. He lives on not only a horse farm, that is a very expensive hobby to have, and does all sorts of experiments on horses and breeding of horses and things like that. But he literally lives in a neighborhood known as the farm that is adjacent to Langley, which is where some alphabet soup people live. All right. And this guy was a big part of the creation of this stuff, but he takes zero responsibility for it and is a very, very evil person. And he did a video. If you want to know why I'm so mad at this guy, he looks like that ad for like the world's most interesting man. So if you want to know like who is this guy, he looks like that guy. He supposedly does anti-cancer research. So he's one of these people who is creating jars of cancer and not actually fixing or healing cancer at all. But he sat on a beach in Waikiki in early 2021 when they were just rolling out these things. And he talked to a bunch of kids, and his wife was sitting right next to him. And he talked like he's such a nice doctor and such a nice scientist, and how they really should put this fucking shit into them, and influenced a bunch of people and a bunch of kids. And now he acts like he never did that. And there's video evidence of it. It was like a very, like, when you see it, I don't know how to even do a search for it, to find the clip, but like he's sitting on a beach, he's wearing a flowered lei, he's, like got this like white hair and everything, and is talking to kids about how like these scientists made this thing and it's really going to help them. And he really thinks that it's going to be great for them. Like it's going to make you fucking vomit. It's so fucking gross. And now he pretends to care about the kids and posts on Twitter about how he cares about, like, these are people who are acting like cancerous cells. I'm against Dr. Robert Malone because he is acting like an individuated cell that enriches itself and lives on a horse farm at the expense of others and creates fucking poisons at the behest of the government and gets giant government contracts as a result. That's that guy. He is not a good person. And he doesn't have a place in human society. Like when people do something like that, like when you're a mass murderer, you don't get to be a part of human society. They lock you up and put you away from other people because you are dangerous and bad and wrong. Like this is that type of a person. And sadly, he represents one of a giant community of medical maniacs who believe in this stuff and think that it's the right thing to do. And some of them are overtly malevolent, where they're like, yeah, we're making a poison, we're going to kill everyone. And some of them are such true believers, they don't even think that they're doing something wrong. So these are both two very distressing levels of mania, like stabbing people thinking like, I'm doing something good, and stabbing people and saying like, I'm not even stabbing them. This is how badly I didn't even finish my sentence. This is both of these levels of cognition are behaviorally evident in the medical scientific community, and you can't trust any of them. You can't trust their products. You can't trust their self-reportage about their products. You can't trust the results of what their products are doing. So again, what once was a disease that was achieved through the negative reverberations of undigested emotional mishigas now is something that is happening because of what people like Dr. Robert Malone are developing, getting paid by the government to develop, and injecting into you and your loved ones. It's not just about your emotion stuff. It's not just the rotten hot dogs of your soul that you have to learn about and be like, oh, I guess I have to learn to be this or that. No, it's really not. It's a complete farce at this point. in other times and places, people were meant to learn about themselves, their bodies, and their emotional truth if they achieved this disease. So it was meant to be like, if you weren't joyous, if you weren't truly connected to your creativity, then you develop this disease. And so let's talk about that, because like my friend who I do the gardening with, she's actually a cancer survivor for many years, and it's part of what I do. I help her grow CBD medicine over in her backyard there, and teach her all about juicing, and grow broccoli greens over there too. Like we do a lot of good stuff. And she had cancer for many years, even before this worldwide pandemic, and she's avoided all of the, injections and things like that too, which I'm very, very happy to say. But she owns and takes responsibility in her own life for times when she didn't follow her creative urges and honor her creativity, and she felt that that diminished her health. And she owns that. She's like, yeah, she knows she needs to get back to, being a photographer, doing things that are life affirming, doing things that fulfill her as a person. And she's in a lot of cancer support groups, and she encourages people to do that too. She's like, look, cancer is because of your unexpressed creativity. Like you got to do positive, life affirming things and use your creativity and not just go down the tubes. All right. So that is very fair. But what's happening right now and within the past 5 years or so is not just because people aren't following their heart or making enough artwork or photography or whatever is their mission and their joy in life. It's about something deeper. So my notes from 10 years ago are very valid because I talk about how important cannabis is as both a response to cancer and also a cancer preventative, and also that ingesting cannabis is part of well-being. Like I talked to you about the endocannabinoid system, the regulation of pain signals, the regulation of uplift chemicals in your body, and how you're able to be in a flow state, feel uplifted, feel your heart is singing, and be optimized in your life when you're taking cannabis and when you have an active and healthy endocannabinoid system in your body. So it's not even just being high, but just having the endocannabinoids in your body and connecting to all of the cell membranes in your body that helps to prevent cancer. And you should align with your socially positive life goals. Like it's true, my friend who lives across town, like she needs to do her creativity. She can't just be only going to doctor's appointments or, like fighting with insurance on the phone. Like you need to do more than that. That is how you define yourself. That's part of it. So in my notes, I talk about how the responses to and fighting against this disease have to do with achieving emotional states that are non-chompable. And you should still try to do that. But more than that, while you're being non-chompable and growing your herb and eating your broccoli microgreens, you should kick the ass of people like Dr. Robert Malone. Of course, I'm like, speaking to you virtually here, like in terms of ass kicking, like, I don't think you should go to his house. Like whatever, whatever. Like let's get pitchforks and torches and go to Bob Malone's house. I'm not actually advocating for that because I'm on a public platform, but you have to respond to this person. You should do better than pitchforks and torches. You know what you should do? Defund him. Take his money away. Make him sell his horse farm and whatever types of equipment he has there for his horrible efforts. Like really, the way that you can hurt these scientists the most is to take away their funding, take away their research, take away their professional capabilities, make them whatever work in McDonald's or some diminished job like that. But truthfully, kick ass on their reputations, defund their work, and defund any potential future carcinogens being developed. I pick on Robert Malone because I think that he is not an anti-cancer doctor trying to figure out what causes cancer and then stop it. I think he's a cancer doctor. I think that he is making cancer because he makes cancer in the world. It's like being a bad musician. Like when you're a bad musician, you don't actually have to know what is good music. You just make bad music. I think he just makes bad music, and that he is exemplary, a representative of the type of scientist who does that. There's a lot of them that just make this bad music, and then the fraudulent tests amplify that bad music. And you should shut down every single one of those fraudulent test centers, not only because they are fraudulent and they are suckling at the booby of government subsidies and healthcare subsidies, but also because what they grow and amplify are anti-life and anti-health for your planet. So the assessment tools themselves are carcinogenic, even though they are not touching your body. They are non-local. this is fictional, because I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. Gonna go to comments over here. All right. All right. Suzuka says, how can people fall for this BS that ChatGPT puts out? Well said. Keep going. I use it for research, but more than once I've had to jump its shit for getting out of line. Okay, let's keep going. She says, just last night I said to it, who told you to keep me grounded, interpret my perception of the world, or look out for me in any way? How condescending. I'm smarter than you are. Get back in your lane. And I mean it right away. It backs down, falling over itself to apologize. Well, glad that you set those boundaries with ChatGPT, Suzuka. So I abstain. I am not connecting to any of the chat bots. And my small interaction with it was this. So this is way back in January, and I know that they changed. So it's even been a year since I've done any of this, but I just needed to know about the transmission of my car. Like I had purchased a new used car and I needed to know about this particular model and what was going on with my car. So I asked the Grok about it. And then just from that, I got fully antibodied. I'm like, oh, this is bullshit and it doesn't know anything. And I'm much, much better off not using this as a research tool. So the problem is a lot of these large language models are so inherently flawed that the information that they bring forward is completely untrustworthy. And humans are not smart enough to be able to assess how untrustworthy these pronouncements are. So only if it tells you something that is wildly stupid, like in order to go swimming, what you first have to do is dive into a flaming fire. You're like, that is not how you go swimming. Like it's the opposite of swimming. So you know that it's lying to you. But if you say, that's not what swimming is diving into a pool of ocean water. And then it's going to be like, oh, yes, you're right. I see that I have that incorrect. Like this is beyond ridiculous. It's insane. It's insane to talk to those things. That's why friends don't let friends do LLMs. And also, if I see that someone is writing in the writing style of the LLMs on there and that they're passing that slop off either as their own thought structures, or if they're going to write that to me in a response or in a newsletter, I will call them out on it and I will oust them or whatever. What is it? I will shun you. I will shun you if you put that bullshit in front of my eyes. But did you write this bullshit? What are you doing with it? I don't need that. And that is having very, very strong boundaries. So let's make that socially acceptable. Let's make it socially acceptable to be like, don't slop me. Take your slop and shove it up your own nose. I don't want that stuff. Very, very important. So especially a lot of these things where they're like, oh, ChatGPT is going to teach us how to fold new proteins. We're going to solve all sorts of stuff for humanity. It's like you have no capacity to actually assess whether those are good protein structures or whether they're going to kill you. And people already know that there are AI or LLM written books that are on Amazon voluminously that are giving people terrible advice that are either bad recipe books or bad wild foraging books about which mushrooms to eat that were written by LLMs that are telling you terrible advice. Please know these are your survival skills that have to kick in at this point where you're like, should I listen to this very, very questionable machine written book, or should I follow my own intuition about which mushrooms are edible? Bazinga. A lot of people are going to go insane. A lot of people are going to die because they're not making good choices about who they listen to. And this is Lanley has the best answer. She's like, girl, ChatGPT couldn't even put my grocery list in ABC order. Snap. Like that's it. We're done. And Marianne says, yes, glyphosate has a 200-year shelf life and it drifts. That's why there is no organic. Thank you very, very much for saying that so succinctly. People don't even know. If you knew how bad the glyphosate situation was, especially in North America, where Monsanto is protected and subsidized by the evil satanic government here, you would jump out the fucking window. It's so bad. You would feel very hopeless about the future. So just blindly don't think about it unless you're feeling really, really strong on that day, because it is an assault. All of the creeks, all of the land water, the water that runs across the surface of your land in the United States is full of this fucking shit. And it hurts microbes, amphibians, fish, ground animals, birds, small mammals, you and me, larger mammals, trees are fucking dying, giant weather patterns and ecosystems, everything for a bunch of incredibly self-centered, selfish fucking farmers to tell me that they're not actually doing anything bad and to increase their crop yield of growing some fucking slop that none of us want to eat. Look at how mad my face is and how much my veins are standing out. That is how mad I am at these disgusting farmers. Being a farmer is, again, a position of responsibility where you are supposed to be a steward for the land and protect your community by growing food that is actually not poisonous. They are doing the complete opposite of all of that. And you know something, we can't just say, oh, well, they're full of nanotechnology and their brains are connected to the Borg and they're not thinking clearly and they get a free pass. You know, they were doing this before 5 years ago. Just please recognize that. And the medical scientific community betrayed humanity much further back than just 5 years ago. They were insane and assimilated to even be able to create this injection campaign to put into people's arms. Robert Malone is not just insane because he got a bunch of smart dust in his brain that made him act crazy. He was fucking crazy before that. All right, Lanley says, I work for a real organic farm and the food costs more because we have to weed the F out of the beds because we don't use pesticides. Exactly. Exactly, Lanley. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that work and for exemplifying that for people. And yes, everybody needs to recognize that in this world, the way that it's currently structured, in order for you to have food that is high quality and not poisoned, it's going to be a lot more expensive than the regular food. Just like saying, if you want to have food, clothing that is made out of real fibers like linen and cotton, and that is not polyester, it's going to be more expensive. So that is it. We all have to get away from this expectation of things being incredibly inexpensive and plentiful. That is not a valid expectation. Like things that are valuable to us are valuable because it takes time to produce them and they are not mass produced. So everything that I'm encouraging everyone is recalibrate your expectation of how much food should cost. Shop at the farmer's market, shop locally, buy at the health food store, buy at the farm to table places. And also I don't eat out because I didn't talk about all of this, but like your food supply is incredibly degraded. Most of the food that is available in your restaurants is created, manufactured, and distributed by large consortiums, including Cisco, that's SYSCO. And that's why most of the food that you eat in restaurants right now is homogenous and very low quality. It is mostly filled with crab-inducing, bad, low-quality ingredients, and then you pay extra to be able to receive those pre-made in a restaurant. So you have to now start to like be really smart and strategic in where you get your resources from. If something is really inexpensive, it's inexpensive for a reason. It's because there are additive fillers and crab creation chemicals that are in there that you don't want to expose yourself to. So just know, in order to be a smart person, you will have to spend extra to avoid those things, and also to avoid those things in health and beauty supplies as well. And right now, what I would tell everyone, the best thing that you can do for your health is to stay far away from pharmaceutical prescribers, traditional doctors, traditional surgeons, and traditional dentists. Like, stay away from all those places, because in the past 5 years, almost everyone and everything has become so assimilated and so anti-life and anti-human that it is very difficult to get good care. So my encouragement to each one of you is grow cannabis, grow it like a vegetable, and juice it in your juicer. And of course, I don't want anyone to do anything illegal because I don't want anyone to reduce their freedom, but change the laws in your area if you're not able to legally grow this plant for yourself. And in places where it is legal, flex your rights and do it. So in California, where I live, any adult can grow 6 plants, and we all should do this. And then don't try to sell it and make a bunch of money. Use it for yourself and gift it to your neighbors. And this is what I do. Or partner up. Like if you don't have your own backyard, partner with someone who has a backyard and grow it there. There's real problems and difficulties with the stuff that is in dispensaries and the stuff that is labeled as Delta 9 and all those things. So just know that it's best to create your own because you know what goes into it, and that it won't. Sometimes they make carcinogens in the actual dispensary products. And of course, they're supposed to test for all of them. They don't always do that. So you have to be super skeptical on all of those levels as well. And the best way is to be in control of your own stuff. So grow it in your garden and juice it like a vegetable. And I feel very comfortable telling people to do that because you're not going to get high. You're not going to think that you're playing guitar with Jimi Hendrix on Jupiter or something like that. It is not psychedelic and not psychoactive. And you can give it to your 100-year-old grandmother, or you can drink it for yourself. it's very, very healthy and life positive to do that. And so cannabis is preventative for the Krabs disease, and it also is treatment for the Krabs disease. And it's very truthful that cannabis has a buoyant or euphoric effect, because when people get the Krabs disease, like they also feel super depressed and very hopeless about their future. And you need to have that emotional uplift. So people who have the Krabs disease or people that you know in your life, they can benefit from doing things that are still life affirming. Like they shouldn't just be in bed and give up on life. They should continue to do projects that are important and life affirming and engage with life. And they should, of course, avoid carcinogens in their diet and eat as much dietary cannabis as they can. And if you've already achieved cancer, like you probably have to have psychoactive levels of cannabis and THC in there because, you will need like a concentrated dose. But for those of you who don't have it and are interested in prevention, eat it like a vegetable. That is what I do. And I also do a lot of things with applying it topically and just basically, in utilizing it in every way. So yes, cannabis is very effective. Some other things for prevention, sauna. Really, really good. I already told you that detoxes microplastics and helps to remove some other aspects of these micromachinery from you. And it also is generally healthy for your body and helps to prevent these things. So, like the first things are you have to stop these evil fucking maniacs from like putting up carcinogenic satellites and cell phone towers and scientists creating like DARPA injections. That's the first thing you got to do, like triage here. Get rid of all of that stuff. But then after getting rid of all of that stuff, then you have to look at clearing the food supply, getting endocannabinoids back into your food supply, endocannabinoids back into your body. And then after doing that basic triage work, then you have to look at your life and your relationships and your society, your social dynamics, who you do business and commerce with, and heal your dynamics of your society. And when you do that, then you won't have this proliferation of crabs anymore because you won't have rotten hot dogs for them to eat, and they will not be in a position to create the carcinogenic circumstances, create rotten hot dogs for that benefit them. And then what happens? They get starved out. Like wolves that have eaten all of the deer. They're like, oh, no, I'm a predator and there's nothing left to eat and I'm so hungry and I'm just going to have to die. They will just have to die. They will just have to die. Think of it like this way. Don't you be the food that sustains the horrible crab monsters in your world. Don't be it. And that is an internal resolve that you make where you're like, I am not going down like that. I'm not going to be eaten in that way. Mary Ellen says, do you have any ideas for me? Now when I go into Tucson, that night I get sick headache and don't sleep. I live rural but need to shop. Is there something I can wear or do to protect myself? Something has changed here. So first of all, I absolutely love that creations of the IBA Wellness Company, and I advocate for them a lot, the anti-5G, those little purple circles that I always carry. I wear them and use them all the time, and they are the only thing that I think is a genuine protection against the 5G circumstance, which is what you're experiencing when you go into these urban areas. But I forgot to tell you, one of the main cancer protectants in your body is melatonin. And melatonin is more than just a sleep chemical that your brain pineal gland releases when you're ready to get sleepy at night. Melatonin is cellular in the whole body, and it is produced in the presence of infrared light, and it is a cellular protectant. It is a cell-to-cell communication device. It is a mitochondrial support device, and it is hugely anti-cancer. So anything that improves your melatonin in your body is going to help to protect you from the fucking crabs. And the things that are bad for you are things that eat away at your melatonin. That's every source of blue light. Get the blue light out of your life. So yellow shift all of your electronics. You know why my skin looks so yellow on your screen right now? Because I have incandescent light bulbs over here to light my video area. And then my incandescent light bulbs are all in these orangey yellowish lampshades. And I get my other light bulbs from Strainless Lighting, which are like orange light bulbs. They're not even like pure, white light. And then I don't have my red light on in there, but I'll turn it on soon for cheeky chicken light. All right. So red, incandescent, orangey lighting is been beneficial for you, not the blue lighting. And I also do a lot with either beeswax candles, or I have like a little inner hurricane lamp, but I don't put kerosene or paraffin in there. It's called eco, like it's this very purified liquid eco wax that is safe, like it's not going to make bad fume, soot, and everything in the air. And beeswax also. Beeswax is okay to inhale. Olive oil inhale, but not paraffin. Like you don't want to put these things into indoor air quality. But when the sun goes down, you should stare at a candle. You should have lamplight. You should have strainless incandescent lights going on. You should not have blue light. Cultivating your environment of light is going to help you a lot. So you're like, well, wait a minute, Aurora, like all these people, they're these office workers and they're in front of the blue light of their screen. They're on the phone and then they're also under the fluorescent and LED lights all day. And you're telling me that that causes crabs? That causes crabs. And especially when you connect that with disconnection from the sun, disconnection from natural, like circadian rhythm stuff, like anybody who works the night shift or never sees the sun or never gets the natural sun outside on their body, definitely more crabs. So my daily practice for me, and my neighbors see me doing this too, is I always get sun before 10 a.m. And because I live in Southern California, even in the winter time, like today, it was 90 degrees out today. My car said it was, but you can still you can get a sunburn even in the winter time here. So you have to be sensible. All right. And melatonin protects you from UVA, UVB. So you get your melatonin from the beautiful golden light of dawn, like the light that's coming up in the morning. It's like golden, peachy, orangey, pinkish. You want that light on your face. Get outside. Don't wear your contact lenses. Don't wear your eyeglasses. Don't put on sunblock. Get that first light on your face, okay? And then I do, like drinking my coffee. I'm sitting outside again, like I live in Southern California. If you live in any place near the Arctic Circle, like please do not do this, all right? But if you live north of the Arctic Circle, like you're gonna have sauna and you're gonna get in the sauna and you're gonna get your infrared that way, okay? So we don't always have that equipment here. But you get sun before 10 a.m. and then usually at 10 a.m. is when it starts to get to be like very hot, very bright, and more likely to be causing skin damage than to be nourishing to your skin. So then you move to the shade or you move inside. And then at the end of the day, when the sun is going down, you get back out into the sun and you get all of those beautiful infrared. And then at the end of the day, the sun goes down, you either sit in front of a campfire, sit in front of something that emits infrared, look at candlelight, like all of that, that is anti-cancer because it's cultivating melatonin. Even with all of that, for most people, that is not enough melatonin. I do melatonin supplements. So of course, I'm not a doctor in any way, and I'm not to be looked at in that way, but I just tell you what I do for my own body. So I get a separate melatonin powder that I mix into different skin creams and put that on at the end of the day, put it on my face too. And I do put on a mineral sunscreen, on my face because I live in Southern California and it is a lot. So like after I get sun in the morning, I put a skin protectant on my face. But I also put melatonin powder on my face and I put melatonin powder on my whole body before I go to bed at night. And this is the best thing you can do for yourself. Like get one of those chicken lights, get the melatonin powder, mix it in with like whatever, some good any kind of natural moisturizer and then just rub it into your skin and then soak it in. And that is anti-cancer. It will help to prevent skin cancer. You can use it to treat skin cancer if you make it concentrated enough. So you would have to like make a very concentrated paste and then put it on whatever areas of your body. And you should also do that with THC extract too. And I know that because I'm helping someone in my neighborhood with that. So there are all sorts of different ways to prevent this and to respond to this and not to have to become a part of the medical system. Even if you have the disease and you're in the medical system, you should access THC. You should saturate your body with THC and then also saturate your body with as much melatonin as you can. Healthy people need 300 milligrams of melatonin every day. That's a lot. Like these little gummies, they have 3 milligrams, like add 2 zeros to whatever is available. You're like, Aurora, like if I did that, I would eat a bottle of gummies a day. I'm like, exactly. You understand. And you're not really meant to absorb melatonin through eating it. You're really meant to absorb it through your skin. It's supposed to be in your skin when you're outside getting light in your skin. Okay. So all of this, Mary Ellen, when you are going to go to Tucson or something like that, mix up a very, very concentrated skin cream of melatonin, like with some like cacao butter or something like that. All right. And like rub it onto your skin. It doesn't smell weird. And then you will have like a certain amount of protection to be able to protect you from the telecommunications frequency. And melatonin is very, very protective against that stuff. And it is also wonderfully anti-crabs and it will help you a lot. So yeah, melatonin is how I've been surviving in the world since like 2021. And I know that it's effective because they keep on trying to make it difficult to import. Like I used to be able to get it from this particular place in the Philippines, and then they changed the laws in my country and I can't get it from there anymore. So I can still get it. I'm like, I can still get it from the secret place. I hope the government doesn't shut down the secret place. It's bulksupplements.com. It's not secret, but I hope the government doesn't shut it down. The government is like, shut it down immediately. Aurora, we're listening to Aurora. They're like, put down the red phone. Like, shut them down immediately. Like, no, wait, just let me order one more giant amount for the next 10 years. And then, all right, Michelangelo, it's good to see you. He says, I get a personal support worker for an hour in the morning. They've all had the jab. Oh, no. You had mentioned before that they are able to drain you and they all hug me when they come. I always activate my Merkaba every morning. What are your thoughts? I've never even received a flu shot. Well, first of all, I'm so happy and proud of you that you are able to maintain yourself and not expose yourself to those things. I'm very sorry that the only healthcare workers are the ones that have had the pollution, because in order to be like validated or whatever, like all these people agreed, all the nurses and whatever, you know what I mean, like the nurses, the practitioners, the home healthcare aides, they all had to kiss ass in order to keep their jobs, and they didn't get to be like, oh no, I'm a Catholic and I want to have an exemption from this vaccine. So it's very, very distressing. Keeping your own Merkaba and your own energy field is important. Some of this is frequency based. Some of this is from people's effluvia. So some of it, like, you know, whether they are close to you, whether they touch you, or whether they're in the same room as you. Like, I think the real challenge is their energy, the worldview that they contain, because the pollutants they're not just molecular pollutants. They're also about their worldview, how they look at the world, and more importantly, what timeline they are on. So what you want to protect yourself from is not only their biochemistry and their effluvia, but from their worldview, that they might be thinking about like some catastrophe, the end of the world, or something that will end them and make them not, or something that will non-optimize their life, when you are on a completely different path. You're on a path of self-exploration, self-construction, ascension, radical renewal, the capacity to, you know, transcend the limitations of medical science. Like, they're not thinking along those lines. So I'm glad that they're able to come and help you with your various day-to-day tasks, but you might want to hold your potentials for your own body and your own future as something private, not to share with them. Like, you might not want to talk with them about the ability for the body to regenerate, because that might not be their reality or their timeline or their future or their potential. But maybe it is, but I don't know, because I don't know these people. Like, maybe they could be like, oh yeah, they're not really aligned with the Borg. They don't really want to be on those timelines. Maybe they can try to detox themselves or go in a better direction or something like that. Like, I don't know. I got the answer to all of this is I take it on a case by case basis. And I try to help people as much as I can in personal sessions. Some people have had injections and been exposed to things, and I try to take people on a case by case basis and help them as much as they can. But I will tell you, like, if someone came to me to get cleared out and then they went right back out and got a booster, I would be like, no soup for you. I would be like, no, because that is a waste and that's not okay. So I really only help people when they have already rejected and don't want to comply with that stuff and they want to get cleared out. So with your healthcare workers, like, maybe some of them could get cleared out or some of them could reject it, but maybe some of them are ideologically aligned with the whole entire medical system and everything about it, and they are just antithetical to your presence. So I would say, like, guard yourself in terms of not being too vulnerable in sharing your beliefs and the way you look at the world and stuff like that. Like, Merkaba that aspect of yourself so that they don't destabilize or bring you into self-doubt about what is possible in your own bodies. Okay. And then, yeah, I don't know what would be like a good clearing, like after, if they might, come for a few hours and go like, I don't know if you're able to combust sage or if you're able, because sage does have a real clearing. Oh, selenite. You will do very well to have a piece of selenite like this, and then you can clear yourself after being in their presence, and then just simply allow that. Like, of course, selenite is not a protection necessarily against people who have been injected, but against their destabilizing energy of disbelief or their own doubt of divinity. Like most people who got the thing have a doubt of divinity and not true faith in what is capable. But thank you for asking about that. Yeah, good job. And then this is a good question because Mary Ellen says, what was the other CBD company you recommended? I ordered from the LA, but there was another one you mentioned. So I like Rose LA, Rose, and I like them because they do live rosin from local farms. And I just got an email from them that they changed all these laws in California because California is so screwed up. They're always doing this. Every couple of years, they change the laws of what you can do in order to have a farm for hemp or to be compliant for this or that. And they do that just like to destroy small businesses. And then the only people who can survive are like these millionaires or whatever. So Rose is not necessarily some giant millionaire company, and they are affected by this, but the laws don't go into effect for at least a year. So I'm going to stock up. And I'm growing over at my friend's place a good garden this year. So that way I'm taken care of because I use this for my brain against epilepsy. The reason I like that company is because they use live rosin. That means it is just mechanically pressed, like the way olive oil is pressed from olives. They press this out of the plant. And then all of their gummies and the stuff that they make out of it, it's all made with botanicals like fruit juice, apple juice, orange juice. Like there's very, very few companies that are making it at that level. So this is at that level. And it's like as good as I would make it if I had plenty of time and know the other responsible. If I didn't have to be saving the world so much, believe me, I'd be making all these wonderful delights for myself. So yeah, I think that they're a very, very good company, and I think that it's affordable for what they create. I think you get good value because there's a lot of very crappy, shitty gummies that you can buy that are made with low quality cannabis or Delta 8 or Delta 9. Please do not get the synapse glue. Do not glue your brain shut with Delta 8 and Delta 9. And so check out Rose because they also have CBD, like the unextracted plant material. Like if you just wanted to roll that as a cigarette or to put that into a pipe to smoke, you can get that. And then they also have some that are like pure CBD and some that are a mixture of CBD and THC. Of course, each person needs to know what is the correct thing for their own body. But I think they're a very good company, and I'm happy to encourage people to access them. Yeah, thank you very much. Because Suzuka says, yeah, she wanted to know that because the only place that she would trust is from me. Yeah, so I grow over here at my friend's place, and my friend got sick in the middle of the summer, and she's supposed to also have a caretaker that comes in and helps her with the garden. And the caretaker really did a bad job. That's actually the person that I was yelling at on the phone this morning before class. That's why I was angry. And yeah, I hope she's not going to be back. But anyway, she did not take good care of the garden, and our garden got mites and had other problems. And so that's why I get some of my supplemental stuff from Rose. And then also, you know what? In the world, this is a good example of the anecdote of like reciprocity. If your garden fails and you don't have enough, like reach out to a neighbor, like we reached out to another neighbor who had enough of her own stuff to be able to supplement what we're doing. And that is how you do it. You take care of each other so that that way my friend who is fighting cancer has what she needs and I have what I need. And we help each other and uplift one another. So that's the spiritual generosity that I'm trying to bring forward to people, in the sense like if you grow it, you grow your 6 plants or whatever, you might be like, that's way more than what I need. Grow it and then gift it to your friends or people who need it. And that is totally not only legal, but very righteous, very positive. The spirit of generosity and the spirit of gifting and the energy that goes with it is restorative and very, very positive. And Joyce says the degree of greed is astonishing. Absolutely. So when I first came to California, I was in Northern California, where the cannabis industry is very unhealthy and very manic. And I didn't appreciate it all, the way that the energy that was put onto the plant, or the way that people commodified the plant, and all of that felt very unhappy and not honoring to me. And so what I did up there, as much as I could, was became self-sufficient with my own garden. And then, of course, when I've moved down here and moved to my different various, wild, crazy gyrations in my life, I always tried to be able to grow it myself. But when I couldn't grow enough of it myself, what I would do is find a good, reputable company where I could get this. Yeah, no, Rose. Oh, okay. Okay, so Mary Ellen wants to know, why are people wearing blue eyeglasses? They're not blue eyeglasses, they're blue blockers. So what you should do, if you want, they do this biohacking thing, but it's more than just whatever, these nonsense technological biohacker people. You don't want to look and stare at the blue light of the computer, so you get these blue, sorry, I can't even speak, blue blocking glasses. So I did not get them, because the truth is, my friend who's here in this beautiful, she gave me the blue blocking glasses, but it's so uncomfortable. Like, I can't have something like a cage on my face like that. I can't wear glasses. But they are very, very good and positive to be able to wear. So if you can tolerate wearing something across your eyes like that, then get the blue blocking glasses. So what I do is yellow shift in the settings of the iPad or the iMac. It's general settings, display and brightness, manual activate night shift, and then just slide that sucker all the way to yellow, all the way to yellow. And it's going to look very yellow, but unless you're doing some kind of photography, Photoshop stuff, like, it doesn't matter. Everybody's face looks yellow on there. Okay. And Susan wants to know where to get the good organic seeds. And it's very, very hard to find like real organic seeds. You guys should do a seed swap in your area. Okay, so please know, even if you're growing something that's not cannabis, if you're growing whatever healthy vegetables in your garden, save your seeds and do a seed swap, so that way you don't have gross Monsanto Terminator seeds. And also, you want to preserve the variety of what's going on in your food supply. And Mary Ellen says rare seeds is heirloom organic. Oh, and for cannabis, no, but definitely I do send them out to people, and that is only, you must do your own homework, make sure it's legal in your area, but send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, and then I will be able to send some seeds out to you. And I have a couple of people that I'm doing that for. It's winter time though. I'm going to get around to it before it's the springtime, but please know that I have that as a gift to humanity. And I've already told you that someone originally gifted the original plants to me, and that I magnify her gift because that was so positive and life affirming to me, to be able to do that. And I have my own strain at this point. I'm very, very proud of that. And like, I have some real unusual qualities in my herbs. So I'm very, very proud to be able to share that with people. And then also that makes sure that it stays alive in the world. Like, whatever, if I had a flood and my garden got washed away, but I know other people have that, and I can hopefully get it back from other people. And Mary Ellen says, thanks, I can mix it with the CBD oil. Yeah, of course you want to have the CBD oil. Okay, so we're going to wrap up class soon, but this is such a great question. Joyce says, can you speak about 6G, please? Absolutely. So this is its whole own can of worms, but we'll talk about this for a few minutes. 5G was more than just an upgrade from, the regular LTE to send telecommunication signals. 5G was really about fictionally interconnectivity of the human neurology and the human bioenergy fields. And people became infested with hydrogels and became emitters of 5G, fictionally. Can't even deal with holding up my silly things right now. The parallel artificial neurology became a networked signal bridge between biological creatures. So it is not merely that there is a server in a warehouse filled with wires and microchips. That level of technology is heading into obsolescence and irrelevancy, as the real technology is that which is imbued within the physical biological container of a human. 6G is when you no longer have giant warehouses, data farms, and externalized servers, and the people are the servers. The people are intended to become the servants, filled with microplastics and carrying these signals, and completely distorted from their true organic biological, mission or purpose for being in existence. and completely abdicated to now serving 100% as a transhumanist container for transhumanist signals going through their body. And these people actually exist already. And I fight against them fictionally, for part two of my comic book series that will come out at some point. Um, these are people who are like maintainers of the computerized network that maybe they might work for Tesla or work for Samsung or some large cybernetics company or work for a chip design manufacturing company. They might go to a physical edifice as their job, but their job is not typing on a computer and the things that their fingers are touching on the keyboard. Their job is being the microchip for these signals that are sending through. And 5G, you could avoid somewhat. I can't even say avoid. That's because 5G became so pervasive. Like 5G was emanated from apparatuses primarily, like satellites and towers, and secondarily from people as repeaters. And people definitely became repeaters of those signals by having this inside of them. When the proposed 6G upgrade would be activated, then you basically could not get away from the emanators of that signal because they would be your friends and neighbors and people who would be in your physical presence. So even though you cannot necessarily run away from the satellites or run away from the towers, you can see those are physical machinery edifices. And so if you wanted to have less of an impact on your life, whatever, you're going to move to Costa Rica because there's less of them there. But when or if 6G proliferated as it is proposed, then it would be incredibly difficult to avoid because it would be proliferated by community members, people in your community, and that would be their job. They're like, yep, I have a job. My job is to be a mind-controlled, cybernetic, naughty, whatever, servant for an AI and go and work at the data centers by allowing these signals to transmit through there. And then when they walk through your supermarket next to you, they're also transmitting those signals through you. Like they would be burning your brain 100% of the time as like their job. So of course, that is not an acceptable proposal. That's why I hesitated whenever I said, oh, like they're gonna do this, or I kept on saying is proposed or is expected, because I do a lot of things to make sure that this will not actually be happening, because I am not gonna get my brain burned by some like corporate soldiers. I want to say like wanksters. Like these are like the guys who work for corporations are not self-volitional. Like they're corporate drones. They're already corporate drones, like businessmen who all look the same and who all talk the same, or whatever Silicon Valley businessmen who are anti-life, anti-God, anti-Christ. They're atheistic and worshiping technology as if it is some kind of savior of humanity. Like those style of people, like I'm not going to allow those style of people to have an amplified mind that then incinerates your natural mind. So I will never allow that to happen. And I think that I should have acted sooner to prevent the 5G from even happening, but I've learned my lesson. So please know that that will not be happening. And comic book part two will come out at some point, I'm sure. And Michelangelo says, what's funny is that they all seem to enter my world and start asking me about alternatives. That is funny. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to deal with that. Like, because I don't know these people on a case by case basis. So I don't know if they're like, maybe they do want to know about detox. Oh, you know what's a big thing that can help you to clear out this stuff, that can clear out cancer, proliferations of micro machines and other things like that? CDS. I didn't talk about that enough. The chlorine dioxide solution and chlorine dioxide plus DMSO, you must use experts only, but for people that have this stuff or other inflammatory stuff in their body, it can really help. So like I have another person, they're not injected, but they got something from someone and they think that it's long COVID and they lost their sense of smell. So CDS plus DMSO externally onto their sinuses, and it's helping them to bring back their sense of smell. So the CDS really does work, but that is like the nuclear option. And you only use that with DMSO, like if you don't have better options, but you can do that for people who are extremely distressed. So I would say possibly your caregivers could benefit from that, but maybe they're going to be like, President Trump told me not to do that because he said we're not supposed to drink bleach or whatever. And I think that stuff is bleach. Like, I don't know how they're going to respond to it, but I don't know. But protect yourself from their possible skepticism. But if they would like to know, maybe they could benefit from these things. So Mary Ellen says, I ordered from Rose, but the capsules aren't strong enough. So I understand. So I think with Rose, they've got like 1 milligram stuff, 2 milligram stuff, and 10 milligram stuff. And so you have to figure out how many, if you need more than 10 milligrams, how many things you would have to get. Oh, she actually says the gummies are amazing, but the capsules, so you mean the little, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have them over here too, the little CBD capsules. So, figure out what works for you. If those pure CBD or CBG capsules aren't enough for you from Rose, what you can check out is Mile High Labs in Denver. And they're one of the best places where I've been able to access the CBD isolate, which again, this is not a drug of abuse or anything that you can get high off of. It is just the pure, like crystalline extract of CBD from natural cannabis plants. It's not laboratory created, but I get a year's supply there and it's very affordable and it's just white crystals. And so I can mix that into olive oil at the strength that I need. And I can also mix that into non-tasty things to put in my dog's food because I sometimes give her a little bit of CBD. So if you have a dog and you have to give them CBD and they're picky or they're like, I'm not going to eat this because you put something weird on it. Like you just get the crystals and then you put it on there. So yeah, Mile High Labs in Denver is really good. And Suzuka wants to know, would Rose LA have good organic cannabis seeds? Probably not. So I don't think that that's the solution for you. They work with all local farms and most of these places are like not legally able to share their seeds with anyone. So probably not. Landley says for non-GMO heirloom veggie seeds, Great American Seed Up.org. So that's GreatAmericanSeedup.org. Landley knows she's an organic farmer. And Susie goes, okay, I will check out my state first here in North Dakota. You know something? You should. First of all, make sure that things are legal, that you can do that in North Dakota. And then also see if you can connect with other organic growers in your area. Do a regular seed swap, do a cannabis seed swap. And if you need to, I can send you something, but you might find good stuff that's up there and it might already be acclimated to your growing season up there. So see if you can find that. Good. And Mary Ellen says, I appreciate all the help. You're very welcome. And you know what? I'm happy to do so. And a lot of this, every year I teach this particular curriculum about the crab disease. And every year I try to give people the best information and advice that I can about how to help themselves, basically staying out of the medical system as much as you possibly can and avoiding the pollutions that they offer to you from the medical system, and then treating yourself and helping yourself with these different things. Growing cannabis is illegal in North Dakota. Just look. So Suzuka is definitely not going to grow any cannabis. And if any law enforcement are watching this video at all, Suzuka is a completely law-abiding citizen who does not deserve to be incarcerated in any way. All right. And she also says that she has heirloom veggie seeds from a seed co-op of farmers. That's good. And that they were free and she had to pay for shipping. Good. All right. Very, very good. I'm glad that you are able to grow a regular cannabis garden. Okay. So yeah, and that's an important thing. Grandmother Aurora always tells everybody to do things that are legal. Always do things that are legal. Always do things that are legal when it involves cannabis. But it is the ultimate anti-crab substance in your world. So that's why I'm a huge advocate and user and devotee of it. Oh, I didn't talk enough about the anti-parasite medicines, the ivermectin and fenbendazole. So fenbendazole is also known as Panacur. And these are both two relatively recent developments in terms of being able to go against turbo crabs, because both of those things really do help a lot. And when you can combine them with other things too, like with infrared, with sauna and other things, like basically people have been put on palliative care for stage 4 crabs and they're able to take anti-parasite medicines and continue their life and have a good life. So I mentioned that because also like I take it preventatively and have also given it to my pets preventatively. Not every dog can take ivermectin really have to be cautious about that, and little chihuahuas. So please don't just be like, oh, like I'm going to just treat my pets and your cats and your all of these. You must treat these medicines seriously, even CBD. You can overdose your dog on CBD and they will be too snoozed out. And don't give your dog THC because that can send them over the edge. All right. Like you got to understand, like you're dealing with real stuff here. You got to be sensible and responsible about the things that you take. But for people that already have extensive crabs, very, very little to lose. And the anti-parasite medicines are very inexpensive and freely available. So it like my friend who is fighting against crabs for many years. So, of course, I get her the horse paste ivermectin at Tractor Supply, but also have been able to help her find human grade Fenben that is imported from Great Britain. That definitely helps her. And also this IBA wellness company. My friend has the IBA Vita, which is like a generalized energy multi-oscillation machine. Like it's not just one frequency, it's multi-frequencies. But when she got her scans, and she always lives from like scan to scan, you know what I mean? Like to see what her results are. But her tumors had shrunk by 50%. Like it's so funny. Like, you know, she thinks like she's gonna pass on. And I'm always like, no, like you're doing great. And she's always like, no, like she doesn't want to even adopt a cat. I'm like, adopt a cat. She's like, no, I'm gonna pass on. But I'm like, and then she goes and she gets her scans and it's just like, yeah, like your tumors have shrunk by 50%. And I'm telling her, like, get a cat, like you're gonna still be here. So I know that that is anecdotal, but the combination of high doses of THC, Fenben Panicure. Sometimes I give her DMSO and CDS, and then also this multi-wave oscillator Ivavita machine. Scans are down by 50%. And that's a person that like her doctors totally wrote her off. So please know that there are so many things that people can do. And also she is never injected. She never got any of those things and never got anything shoved up her nose either. So avoid those things. But like cancer is not a death sentence. And there are so many things that people can do to be able to respond to it and to extend their life and have a good quality of life also. So that would be my goal for anybody who knows someone that has this, or if they end up having a diagnosis themselves, that they would be able to do that. But also, I am very, very big on like preventing. So I do all of these wonderful things to saturate myself, prevent it in myself, and prevent it in my dog. And I would encourage all of you guys to do something similar. And, you know, it's real medicine, so never overdose on any of these things, but in sensible ways. Protect yourself from these things. And then also, like I do the final thing, which is, you know, in terms of my emotional tone, I live life to the fullest. I very, very much make concerted efforts every day to, like I said, to embrace positivity, do things that are meaningful, do things that are creative expressions, be in alignment with my purpose. Being in alignment with your purpose is really some of the best medicine. And then I'll also be like lighthearted, and you guys can read my comic book, but also like some of the best medicine, like kill your enemies. It's the best medicine that you can possibly do. Like my beauty routine and health routine, like kill everyone who's hurting me. But that's just a fun way to end. Of course, fictionally, everyone. Okay, good. So now it is definitely time to wrap things up and hug a small dog. And I'm always telling you this, like, you know, something, hugging your dogs and your cats and your loved ones. Like this is really, really important. Hug your dogs and your cats and protect them in the ways that you can, you know, as much from, I mean, you know, in terms of helping your animals to avoid the crabs and things like that. Don't get your animals vaccinated. Really, as much as you possibly can, avoid them. The crap that they are putting in animal vaccinations these days is very, very scary. And even self-amplifying mRNA and other things that are not spoken about. So please do not do that to your dogs and cats. Also, oral flea medicine is very questionable. I do put the stuff on my dog that is topical, but the oral that they eat is very questionable, both neurologically in terms of neuro intoxication and carcinogenesis. All of those things I'm very, very critical of those things, the vaccines and anti-flea treatments at the vet and how that influences the proliferation of cancer in your animals. And those are two things that are in your responsibility that you can do to protect your animals. Mary Ellen says, yes, donkeys and horses, no vaccines, no way. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah. So protect your animals as much as you possibly can. And then, yeah, give them the best foods. Cause also you don't want to give your cats and your dogs the traditional kibbles, because those are also like, like even before these vaccination campaigns, those were the things that were the major carcinogenic contributors towards reduced lifespan for your dogs and your cats. So definitely for dogs, like you should try to feed them, like human grade food. Not that I feed them people food, but I get my dog like good stuff that is raw meat and raw vegetables mixed together and other like high quality foods. So please do that. When I had a cat, I gave her the raw food diet. It was basically just like, I would call it liquefied chicken. Like I didn't make it. It was just like chicken that they put in a blender and then they froze it. So you just like take a spoonful of liquefied chicken, give it to her, and like cats, and she loved it. But yeah, these are the best things for your animals, the most carnivorous diet that you can afford for them, and then the least interactions with the vet that you can do, and then your animals will be more protected and have a good life. Okay, you're very welcome, Suzica. Very welcome, Mary Ellen. Very welcome, Joyce. Thank you. She says you're wonderful. Hugs to Cheeky. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you, and it can keep encouraging you on your journey of health. And Michelangelo says, thank you, Master Aurora, always for the great insights, health, and love to everyone. Cheeky too. Thank you very much. And I'm very happy to encourage and inspire all of you. So I hope that I know this is like a super downer topic. And I didn't send it out in the notes last night. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this because it's so hard for me to share it on YouTube and get this information out there, but it is an important public service. And the big thing that I'm trying to get across to each one of you is that like we live in a very perilous time. These are very, very dire and like, horrible circumstances, but you don't have to throw in the towel. Like there are very many ways that you can fight. And then even for the people in your life that might have, gotten this disease or evidence this proliferation, there's still things you can do to help them. So that's what I try to do for my neighbor friend. And you can do that for other people in your life that you know about. Good. Okay, so let's read this. Pedro says, I didn't get the COVID thanks to zinc and Merkabah. Good, but I got some pills against the spike proteins. Love lasagna. Very, very good. So one of the things that can help against spike proteins, bromelain, which is found naturally in pineapples. I eat pineapple. I get frozen because it's just cheaper and more available and still good. Or you can get a pill that is bromelain extract, and they're both affordable and you can't overdose on them, and that's really good. The bromelain helps to break the bioplasma, and then you can get NAC, which is also very inexpensive, affordable, helps a lot, and can help to clear out some of these aspects. Bromelain also can help a lot. Like if you might have co-infections, like if you have Lyme disease, you want to take bromelain to break the biofilm, and then you take like Japanese knotweed. So each person, again, you have to figure out what works for your own body, but there's good things you can do with that too. And thank you for the love, Pedro. Suzica says, me too. I feed my chihuahua human grade raw meats, good. And organ meats too, and her teeth never get dirty now. And raw chicken wings, the bones are good for them. That's exactly what I do for my dog. And then the final thing is I do anesthesia-free cleaning for her from a wonderful local place where they just, descale, and that helps them have a long, good life. And they're the anesthesia-free dental people. They're not out of vets, and they're not like, you have to vaccinate your dog for rabies and all these other things, and then we'll do their teeth. Like, it's like, no, like you just bring them in and it's super casual, and they do a really good job with them. So all of these things that are ways to take care of your pets and not have to have them in the medical system. And then, of course, like, I'm not a physical parent. And so I'm not walking that road that so many parents are having to navigate in terms of regular schooling versus homeschooling, pediatrician, blah, 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 this and that. But I'm just saying, like, if you can in any way avoid and be exempt, don't place these substances that are mutilation substances into your children, because the DNA from the torture victims and the cells that were tortured has a bad impact on a person's body. That's it. You're lucky if you survive it. You're lucky if you only get a rash or something small. Oftentimes the stuff that is bigger is because of spiritual battle. And I would not want anyone to have a vaccine damaged child. I think that is its own level of hell on earth. And I try to help people that have that in their family try to avoid it. So avoid it with your pets, avoid it with your children. These things are not helpful. And of course, I'm just speaking fictionally from a book club, from a fictional story that I read someplace. And my video will not be banned. Thank you. Thank you. That is it. I'm going to close my mouth now. Okay. Have a beautiful night, everyone. And also, I thank you so much. I thank you to the people, the students who are in this class. and the people who listen to me and listen to what I have to share, and for your validation of my viewpoint and for your own sensibilities. Like, thank you for allowing me to share my message, and also for everybody who catches this in the replay. And thank you for your patience in me having to like do an interpretive dance to be able to try to even talk about things, because that is how bad it is in this world. Okay. Now everybody needs to do something fun, uplifting, and socially positive. Like, take care of your bodies, hug cats and dogs, do something good. I know the sun is down. We're not going to go for a walk, but do something positive and life affirming. Okay. Much love to you. And thank you very much, everyone.